Great Friday, everybody. Look at that. Sun's peeking out. Looks like we're going to have that sunny weekend that was promised. And your midday hang, Annie and Elsten, here with you for hopefully some sunshiny fun. Sports Talk Radio, live local San Diego talk from here till 2 o'clock when Gwen and Chris will check in. We're all together in our Odyssey studios. Annie Heilbrunn is here. I'm Craig Elsten, joined by Braden Suprenant as usual. Big show lined up. Should have a lot of active conversation, and we'll start off. I don't know where we'll start off. What's going on, Annie?
Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. It's great always to be Friday. Yeah, a little sunshine out there, which is nice. Well, we can start with Big Christmas.
Big Christmas.
Who I did not even know existed. So I'm under the rock that I was living of the
I remember
AL
that
teams.
Kid. Yeah.
And the guy, in case anybody didn't watch the Cleveland Yankees game yesterday, tied the game in was it the ninth?
Oh, yeah.
Tied the game in the ninth.
Bottom of the ninth, 2 outs, 2 strikes.
Here's how it was heard on Cleveland radio.
Oh, please, give it to me.
Here it comes. Swung on, hit high, hit deep to left. There she goes. How about that? A walk-off, 2-run home run to the bleachers and left by David Fry. And the magical 2024 season is not done by any means.
So that was the walk-off.
Yes.
But
Tom
the one
Hamilton,
that I was
WTA.
talking, which was really good, and David Fry, amazing moment there. But is it Yohensky Noel? This was the one in the ninth inning.
Yeah.
That was the game-tying 2-run homer.
Here it is.
2 outs. Okay, here we go.
And the 1-0 pitch. Swung on and hammered. High, deep to left. Away, out of here.
This is a beautiful one.
Bedlam in Cleveland.
The Mo Bamba in the background is great.
Yeah.
What a classic, and what a classic game, and of course, what something that you love about the postseason, and is that you get to learn about some of these players, and you get to hear their stories, and they call him Big Christmas. His last name's Noel, and I guess his first name might mean Christmas, something like that. But his dad was coming to see him play for the first time in the United States from the Dominican Republic this postseason, and he didn't have a hit in his first 5 games, finally got a double against the Yankees in game 1 on Monday. Didn't really impact the results of the game. So he had kind of underwhelming production, right? Gets up there, pinch hit. His dad gets to see him tie the game and hit just the home run of his life, really. And his first home run since August 30th, his first extra base hit since September 13th. And so manager Stephen Vogt gave him Noel, a Big Christmas. The nickname when he arrived to the majors, it says it's a big dude with a last name. Yeah, it's a last name that means Christmas, and it's a name that Noel loves. So that was cool. I mean, what a moment if you are Big Christmas to have that be your signature move, your signature moment play in the postseason.
Now, I remember this kid when we went to Cleveland to start the second half because
That's right.
he and he didn't do anything.
Padres did go there.
Yeah, he didn't do anything against the Padres. He pinch hit and struck out.
Okay.
One game, but when he came up, he hit 3 homers in his first 8 games.
Okay.
And was,
So he had the power.
Yeah.
Then it kind of stalled off, I think,
Yeah.
to the end of the season.
Well, he did a classic. He had he had 218 with 13 homers.
Okay,
In
yeah.
180 at bats. So he's got the pop. He also strikes out, a ton. But if he gets a hold of one, he's going to crush it. But I got to tell you, this game was really healthy for me as a baseball fan, and it's just my own personal biases and loves and dislikes and everything else. But to be perfectly honest, since Game 3 of the NLDS, let's be clear, because Game 4 was a nightmare and Game 5 was worse, baseball hasn't been a lot of fun the last week. It's been watching, Big Blue win. It's been watching the house at the casino get over on its patrons. Who roots for the house? when everybody busts or when they draw blackjack. That's what it felt like, and almost an inevitability. And seeing the three $300 million payroll teams all alive and two of them on a collision course for one another, and they're still on a collision course for one another. I will not be so naive as to believe otherwise. But with all of that, I was locked in on this game yesterday afternoon. I put it on when we got home. I had it on. I went to the gym. I was going for a run, and I kept it on the iPad. And Cleveland, of course, had the early comeback to take the 2-1 lead. They tacked on. They were up 3-1. The game got to the 8th. They got through their victory formula bullpen. They've got 4 guys who all had over 75 appearances with an ERA under 2. They've just got a formula. Get through 5. And then lock it down with Smith and Herron and Gaddis and Clase, who was the best closer in baseball by a mile, who through 200 innings of his career had the best stats of any pitcher in the history of Major League Baseball. But he gave up a big homer in the Detroit series. And Gaddis comes in this game, gets the first 2 Yankees out, walks Soto. Wasn't really even competitive walking Soto. And it was just the obvious move. Okay, you're going to go to Clase here. Clase battles Aaron Judge, gets him to 2 strikes. Aaron Judge has this guy is a monster and also an incredible baseball player. And he came to the plate with a game plan, knowing that Clase is a cutter pitcher, knowing that his natural ball movement is going to be away from him, cutting to the left side of the plate. He was looking for something on the outside to hit to right field. And for Aaron Judge, a guy who's got power to all fields, but he's only looking to right field. And he hit one of the lowest line drive homers you'll ever see.
They called it a line drive, and then it went out of the park.
Yeah. I mean, you thought it was either going to rattle off the wall. It was kind of like that ball Shohei hit in game 1 that went off the fence.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And it was like, this is either out or maybe there'll be something that's tall enough to block it.
Yes. Yeah.
But left on its own, it would have kept traveling to the parking lot, at that low line drive. And Judge hits it out, and it's like, oh my God, Clase did it again. I can't believe it. Tie game. Next guy comes up, and Giancarlo bridges him even further. Center field. Basically takes him downtown, again bouncing off the top of their wall and out. And all of a sudden, okay, well, here we go. House wins again. Another big victory for IBM. Another big victory for Big Empire, Big Monarch. I'm perfect honesty. I'm locked in on this game. They get to the bottom of the 9th. Cleveland fritters away a run with a terrible rundown. I'm watching it going, I can hear John Sterling in my mind going, these guys run like drunks, I told you. And then somehow the Indians botch it and gift an insurance run to the Yankees. But they've got the 3-4-5 coming up, They've got Ramirez, they've got Naylor, coming up to the plate. They've got Lane Thomas. And hope springs eternal, right, in the green fields of the mind. And Ramirez leads off. Hard ground ball, caroms off Rizzo's chest for an error. We got the tie and run to the plate. We got Naylor. He's done it. This is a guy who's done it all year. Ground ball pitcher, double play. I turned the game off.
You thought it was over.
Of course.
There comes Big Christmas.
I mean, well, he wasn't up. Lane Thomas was up.
Yeah.
Lane Thomas was up. I'm like, come on. Those are the guys. Ground ball, double play, 2 outs, nobody on. And I'm in the middle of the run, and I flicked down the Max app. I flicked up the Fubo app. I put on the Dodger game. It's 1-1. I'm feeling even more depressed as they're gushing about Yamamoto. I'm running, and then my watch chimes like 5 minutes later and goes, Guardians, Apple TV, Guardians go into extra innings with Yankees. Tune in to see. I'm like, what the living hell did I miss? With 2 outs and nobody on in the 9th.
Yeah.
Flick it back up, right? Good thing about an app, it was just frozen right where I dropped it. Like, okay, let's watch Lane Thomas's at bat. He falls behind 0-2 right away. Like, how the hell did the Yankees blow this game? You know?
Yeah, Yankees would have been walking out with that one. I mean, I'm sure they all thought they had it in the bag. You know, it's at that point you're dominating the Guardians. You're going to be 3-0 on top of them, right? And extra innings, no ghost runner, no guy on second, no Manfred man. So that was new and different, right? I always forget that about the postseason until it happens. You got to earn those ability to cross the plate. You know, you got to earn those runs, but big time. So. And then you have Pedro Avila come in, and then
I know.
It was just one of those games where I feel like it did kind of reinforce that, like, this is anybody's game. I mean, you know what I mean? Like
27 outs. That's what it reinforced was 27 outs, 3 strikes per out. Lane Thomas is down 0-2 with 2 outs, nobody on in the ninth, down 2. ESPN would have declared the game over. Win probability 100 for the Yankees. And he gets a pitch up from Luke Weaver, who goes in, like literally in the span of 6 pitches, goes from being the dominant closer of 2024's postseason to, is this young man too tired to continue in the big leagues? Like the narrative switched in 6 pitches. As he leaves one up, Lane Thomas hits what would have been a home run in probably 27 parks or 28 parks. I think the Green Monster in Cleveland would have held it in off the top of a 20-foot wall. And now he's on second, but who cares? Now you need the next guy to, and then Jackenzie Noel off the bench again gets one right in broad, just right down the middle, and smashes it. Brian Anderson in the call on TNT was great too. It was like a South Korean call. It was just the 3 of them just yelling as the ball flew.
Because who can believe it? And then good managing by Stephen Vogt there too. I mean, on one hand, you're like, well, what do you have to lose, right? Like at this point, you're 2 outs. It's going to be over, but still, you got to make that call, and you got to hope that a guy that has been streaky, has had the homers, has had the pop, but you don't know when the next one's going to come. It hasn't come in a while, is able to do it for you, and he did, and just what a cool for Cleveland, just what a cool moment to be back in it. You're not dead yet, you're not out of it. You regained a little ground there, and you still have a pulse.
Can the Guardians beat the Yankees? Not if Emmanuel Clase is going to keep blowing games. Yeah. No question about that. But
it also it tells you what do you know? The best guy in baseball. I mean, he's been amazing.
Right.
And you get to the postseason, just like what happened with the Brewers. That guy was amazing, closing out games. The entire what was his name?
Devin Williams.
Devin Williams.
The
yes.
Airbender.
Closing out games the entire season, and then you get to the postseason, and you have one. Maybe if they would have went further, it might have been more than one. But at that point, it's just like one bad game. It just doesn't. It doesn't always shift from one thing to the other the way that it should, the way that it seems like it should. But it's just a microcosm of the season where you hit a tough patch, you hit a bad patch, you hit a bad game at the worst possible moment. And how hard is it to be at the very top? Because you're thinking, especially relievers in the postseason, they're going to get a lot of work, and they're going to be most of the time, unless you're the Dodgers and the Mets right now, your relievers are getting a lot of work, all right? And they're close games, and you're needing to hold those games tight, And so how can you, necessarily be perfect through the entire postseason? But then there are some guys that can, So it really does kind of just illustrate how difficult it is. And how you really need everything to go your way in a lot of ways to continue to advance.
The bottom line for me is, as a lifelong baseball fan, as someone who still centers baseball as my number one sport, the sport I love the most, it's been hard to neutral watch these playoffs since the Padres have been eliminated because it's gigantic teams, gigantic markets, teams that we've historically rooted against. I mean, I've rooted against the Yankees my whole life. Not for any gigantic reason. When I grew up in Long Beach, heck, I was on the other end of this rivalry as a little kid watching the Dodgers lose to the Yankees in the World Series, and then watching them beat them in 1981. And of course, I'm generations past that now. My dad sent me a text yesterday, like, you can tell me, like, I'll keep it a secret. Don't you have a little piece in your heart rooting for LA? Like, don't you remember Fernando Mania? Because I did when I was a little kid. That was like first game I ever went to was like Fernando Mania. Like, don't you remember that? I'm like, Dad, sorry,
nice try.
Not this year. No, just can't do it. Because honestly, watching LA dominate the Mets and then seeing Andy McCullough and everyone else writing, oh boy, the Padres were good. Boy, the Padres sure were good.
Yeah.
Doesn't make you feel any better to know that, yeah, that would be our team getting ready to take on the Yankees in the World Series. It would be our team that's up 3-1 or 4-0 in the NLCS because we were right there and then didn't score for 24 innings.
Yeah, the Padres definitely would have had a good shot to move past the Mets. And Braden, and you and I were talking about it just a second ago. Well, first of all, wait, I completely lost what Braden and you and I were talking about just a second ago. But I did want to mention that it's funny to me to watch Dodger fans get so over the moon about this because you paid $1 billion. Like, I don't want you to forget that. Like, I know it's the whole FU thing and it's the whole we are the underdogs. And in fact, Dave Roberts said yesterday something about how it's us against the world, and the comment was made back to him. He's like, I really like this us against the world mentality. And in the presser, the comment was made back to him, you are the world.
Yeah,
like,
you're the world.
You're the world.
What
You're
are you
the world.
talking about? What are you talking? That's like when Georgia won the national championship a couple
Nobody
years ago.
believed in us.
Nobody believed in us. You guys thought we'd go win 7 games. Not a single soul on the planet thought you'd only win 7 games.
I'm not saying that what they've done. Look, I give them the fact you lost a lot of pitching. You know, you have Freddie Freeman on one ankle, all that good stuff, right? Like, so yes, you know, you seem to be a very vulnerable place coming into this postseason, and somehow you found a way to get through with this pitching and found a way to get some of your bats hot that were not as hot early on in the postseason or even at the end of September or in the beginning of September for Mookie Betts. But you still spent $1 billion. You still went into the season as front runners for a World Series run. And yes, I do think it's difficult to see some of that. Like, what were we just talking about with the comment about how good the Padres are? I mean,
and McCullough's comment.
Yeah.
He said, like, oh, this just shows how good the Padres really were.
Oh, that's now I jogged it again. Thanks, guys. It's Friday. I jogged it again. What we were talking about was how good the NL is. The National League in general. Very, very good.
Yeah.
I think better than the American League. We'll see who wins this World Series. But in terms of having to get to where the Dodgers are, and in even the Padres having to get to where the Padres went to, you had to beat some really good teams. And I think at one point, any of those teams advancing wouldn't have been a surprise, right? Like all those teams toward the end of September were just killing it. Like they were doing really, really well and proving their point of why they should be in the postseason. So, for the Dodgers to get through the Padres, and I do think the Padres were the harder team to beat than the Mets. But, you know, I look back at the Padres, too, and it's like, look, they had all that noise around them. And I think, listen, they went out and they won the next day, okay? So that argument doesn't hold a lot of water with me. I think it's an excuse. You went out, you won the next day. You just had 2 bad games, all right? You had 2 games where your bats went cold when they couldn't have gone more, there couldn't have been a worse time for them to go cold. And there's a million times ways you could break. Is that the pitching? Is that our bats? Is that whatever? The Padres, I think, went out there. They cared. They played hard. They did everything they could. But they just hit a freezing cold patch at the worst time to hit a cold patch. Do you agree with that? Or do you?
I generally agree with that. I'm still not far enough away to not still think about a couple things about that series. But I generally agree with that sentiment. All right, as I was driving in this morning, I said to myself, today's going to be Clock Integrity Friday.
Okay.
I'm only over.
Past that.
I'm only 0 for 1.
Well,
I still have a chance.
Since we flattened the tires, might as well.
Yeah.
I can't wait for the Disney movie, the 2024 Dodgers, a true underdog story.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Joe Davis says it every time they fall behind. Every time we took a lead in a game, it was like, well, you know, actually, you could make an argument the Dodgers are the underdogs, John.
And Luis in the chat says, we're the flagship. What's the difference with the Padres $1 billion rate payroll? No, Luis. The Padres did have a high payroll last year, and some of that has carried over into this year. Like, you can't delete the $260 million payroll and how it carries over into this year. But they cut payroll by $100 million.
I don't know how many times I have to tell people this, but just because the major league salary is one thing doesn't mean the other teams don't have a ton of resources into other aspects of their team. Where, like, the Padres, yeah, they spend a lot of money on the major league team, but guess what? The Dodgers can match that with their major league salary. Oh, and by the way, all the money they invest into their development system and everything else. These are 2 different teams. These are two way different organizations with the resources.
Two different
I'm
universes.
not saying that the
Yes.
Dodgers haven't done well. He makes the point the Dodgers started 40 different starters. I don't know if exactly that number is right, but it sounds, listen, they did. They had to deal with a lot of injuries,
Well, when you
Luis, so
spend
I'm going to give you that.
When you spend
Absolutely.
$1 billion, your depth is way more than organizations that would have those injuries that don't spend $1 billion.
We'll pick up this conversation on the other side of this break and set up the rest of the show. And Padre fans, you're really going to want to stay tuned. 11 a.m. hour, we're going to get into the whole Luis Arise thing. Ben Clemens from Fangraphs is coming on himself. So stay right there. Danny and Elsten. Clock Integrity Fridays off to a great start
Sure.
on San Diego's #1 sports station,
Are you over
97.3
it?
The Fan. Welcome back. Annie and Elsten, your midday hang. You know, here's one thing about...
Show's already over.
Show's done.
Hell yeah.
Let's get out of
We
here.
were so bad with clock integrity, we just took it all the way to 150.
One
long
person in the
segment.
chat will be very happy. Everyone else would be wondering. Here's the funny thing. Right now in the chat, it's like a reverse peacock thing. Who's spent more meaningless dollars on which? No, your payroll's bigger. No, your payroll's bigger. No, you've overspent. No, you've overspent.
Are we talking about our boy Luis here that doesn't know how to do math?
Well, it's okay. He actually put 5 people in one comment. I thought he had put 4 and said that it was $1 billion. And yeah, you're right. You can find 5 contracts on
Yes.
the Padres that add up to over $1 billion in total commitment. You can. Manny Machado, 10 years, $350 million. The extension that he signed at the beginning of 2023. You've got the 15-year, $340 million contract for Fernando Tatis Jr. That he signed after he was 21 years old.
Xander Bogaerts. 280.
It's going to haunt our dreams perhaps forever, but yes, 280 over 11 years. You've got 5/100 for Joe, and you got 6/108 for you.
For me?
Dark.
I wish.
In a dream world.
Oh.
In a dream world. And those are a ton of commitments. It's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. Now, if we go
Yes.
out to 5 players deep for the Dodgers, we will get to a much higher figure because you're going to start with 700 for Shohei.
For one player.
For one player. And then you're going to get to Betts, right, who was over 300. I got to look up the number. You're going to get to Freeman. You're going to get to, of course, Yamamoto. We can very easily get to
Shohei, $700 million. Glass now,
125, right?
136.
136. So, okay.
325 for Yamamoto, 365 for Betts, 162 for Freeman. Teoscar Hernandez, $25 million by himself.
I know I brought it up in the last segment, but it's what I'm not saying, like, just because you spend a ton of money, you're going to make the postseason or you're going to win a World Series. I'm sure it helps. I mean, I'm sure it helps to go out there and it increases your chances for sure. However, that's not even the argument I'm making. What I was, I guess, a little more surprised at or making is this idea that this is like some Cinderella story that I see,
Right.
whether it's on the broadcast or in the media sometimes or with the fans. I completely give them that they had a lot of injuries for their pitchers, more injuries than a typical team. I mean, they lost pretty much their entire starting rotation, a lot of relievers as well, et cetera, right? So yes, I give them that. They had to figure out a way to make that pitching work. But at the same time, like Braden said, you're able to go out there and you're able to get some of these players and you have the payroll to be able to do that. And so to act like they were not picked as the World Series favorites coming into the season, they were. Yes, they had to go through adversity. Yes, they had to go through injuries and all of that good stuff. And I'm not taking that away from them, but it's just this mentality of acting like this is like some rags to riches story that happened or something that I'm like,
it's riches to greater riches.
Like you want to be looking at the Guardians for that if they win the World Series or make it to the World Series, right? Don't look at necessarily the Dodgers, the Mets, the Yankees for any of those storylines.
They can afford to pay Jason Hayward $9 million and then have him leave. And pay James Paxton $11.6 million and then let him leave. Padres have like one of those, and it's crippling them right now in Eric Hosmer. Dodgers have a handful of those. They paid Kevin Biggio $4.2 million for no reason.
Yeah, and look, the Diamondbacks screwed it up for a lot of these teams that say, well, the teams that don't spend at all don't ever make it or this and that. Like, I'm looking it up real here. They were among the lowest in the majors in payroll last year, the Diamondbacks. And they did make it to the World Series. And they did have a shot. I don't think the Rangers, I'm trying to look at that real fast here too, but they were not at the highest end of it either.
Sure?
They were. Sorry,
$251
million. They were the 4th highest. But the Diamondbacks, will throw a wrench in that argument that you have to spend at least $200 million or whatever to make the postseason or to make a World Series because they did it last year with one of the lowest payrolls in the league. So it's.
When's the last time a low
it doesn't
payroll?
Mean it doesn't mean it all the time.
When's
but
the last time a low payroll actually won the World Series?
I've got your answer, my friend.
Who was it?
Kansas City Royals.
The Royals.
The Kansas City
The
Royals
Eric
in
Hosmer Kansas City Royals?
2015. And
Nice.
okay, now thank you because you're leading me
they
to.
were also a contact team.
Yeah, you're leading. It's true. You're leading me down the road I wanted to walk. Also, that was the only time
I was going to say
in 20 years that a team outside the top 10 in payroll won the World Series.
The only time in the
only
history of the
A
world.
team outside the top 10 in payroll
Yes.
won a World Series.
Won the World Series. Okay, so
yeah.
Which I totally believe that because the Rays always go, when they go, they never win.
So here's
Yeah.
what I wanted to drive at. I reject the entire premise of you spent, this, because you have to spend to win in Major League Baseball. What's happening this year is the time when the house wins all the way. You know, there's certain days at the casino that's just beautiful for the house where nobody wins big at the craps table, nobody wins big at roulette, the sports book makes bank, everybody loses at a higher than regular rate at blackjack, so on and so forth. All the slot machines are cranking just at their normal percentages, and the bank and the house just has an incredible day.
Unless the Guardians win it, because the Guardians
Right.
have $106 million payroll.
And I'll be rooting for the Guardians all the way until their season ends 2 days from now.
That's right. That's
Absolutely,
what's
I
gonna
will.
happen.
I'm going to
Come
be,
on, Guardians!
I'm going to be right behind them. I'm going to be in their pocket. But this is my point. I want the Padres to spend. Okay?
For sure, yeah,
I
yeah.
want them to spend. And I don't need to be like, oh, I'm more virtuous than you because we spent less than you. And
You also
we still
just don't want it to be an excuse the whole way, though.
Right.
Like, you don't want it to be like the only, like, oh, well, we're never going to make a World Series because.
No, but
I don't
also
know, you know?
what I don't want is for the Padres to hide behind 93 wins, hide behind, well, you know what we did last year. Remember when we beat the Braves? Remember when we had the best record in the second half? I don't want to hear that as a talking point all winter, all spring, and all the way through a disappointing first half of 2025 as they don't spend, as they don't hold their team together, as they allow it to be a diminished version of themselves. No, I want you to spend up to, and maybe for this year, past the apron and into the luxury tax and figure it out as Salas and DeVries get here and as you start to find that transition into the later years of Manny and Xander. But don't blow our window next year. Keep it wide open. So listen, the Dodgers want to spend, and now here's the last part. Sorry, Luis or anyone else, okay? $320 million. What's that? What's that? That's the spending advantage you get over the San Diego Padres each and every year for 25 years. That's what you clear in your Sportsnet Time Warner television deal. $320 million a year for 25 years. The Padres made like, They got the
less than 60 or the 60 that they normally make, maybe, but they had the Bally's
They had the
lawsuit that
payout.
helped a little bit this year that kept them financially, I think, still a
But
more
what did
competitive.
they really
Right.
make on actual
Right.
output?
Not what they did in the past. Not. I mean, maybe
$10 million, $8 million,
maybe half of what, maybe 20 to 30, I would say.
$20-30 million.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
so
my
that's
guess. That's my educated guess.
so
Don't
that's
hold me to that.
$300 million that you get. It's like imagine that the Monopoly turn starts and Annie passes go and she gets $200 and I pass go and I get $320 million. Well, now I can afford some hotels, can't I? And then the next time we pass go and she gets $200 again and I get $320 million again. Like every year that stacks up. That's why you can pay Shohei Ohtani $700 million and act like it was a virtuous thing that he chose you, that you were the chosen one, that you pulled the sword out of the freaking stone. You didn't pull the sword out of the stone, Dodgers fans. You get $320 million a year from your local television deal, and the Padres get whatever they get from signups. Okay? This is a structural advantage that will exist.
We're not playing
for
by
a
the
quarter
same rules
century.
here.
For a quarter century. So just understand that.
Yeah.
That when you talk about, well, you guys spent too, hey, you guys what you're spending is the $320 million a year you get on your TV deal, plus all the money from your Dodger Stadium revenue, plus all the money that you're getting from everything else in the world.
And
What
Japan, plus all the Japan
what
money.
the Padres spent was Papa Pete's money. All right? The Padres spent their ownership's money. They kept making cash calls because they don't have the structural advantage that you guys have. So spending up to that was in baseball terms, from my standpoint, where I'm sitting here in San Diego, California, that was a sports heroic moment when Peter Seidler's like, damn the torpedoes, damn the second apron, we're going for it, we're signing guys. Did you make some big decisions that maybe you're going to regret? Yes, absolutely. Down the road, probably, yes. But they tried to keep up in a situation where debt ceiling, all of that, it's impossible because one team's getting $8 billion over 25 years, and the other's getting whatever they can scrape together.
Yeah, I mean, they did do cash calls where they take the ownership's money. It's different owners throughout the top of the ownership triangle of the Padres, who then put in money that is part of like their ability to own, right, and whatever, and then it's called a cash call. But they also took out loans, and I mean, this has been reported on The Athletic, the Union Tribune. They took out very steep loans, and then they took out a loan, and again at the end of 2023 for $50 million. They took out a loan, loans earlier than that. Those loans have to be paid off. So on the one hand, that helped to establish a stadium where you now have people coming every single night, and you are sold out, and you are full, and have a competitive team that gets you into the postseason. And then, it also opens up the door for the word no one wants to hear me say, which, depending on how you hear either Peter Seidler say it or you hear Rob Manfred say it, is sustainability, right? And that's kind of what you're going to see figure out a level, right, over the next probably however many years, as they figure out like what is the how much can we push this? How much can we push this, and how much can we continue to spend at the higher end and everything like that? Now, for sure, you're a season ticket holder. Like if your ticket prices are being raised, which they were, not very much this last year,
right?
But it still was the fourth year that it was the third or the fourth. I don't remember. Fourth, something like that.
Third.
But they were but not raised by a ton. Like the 3% or depending on what level you were at. And there's inflation that goes with that, and the cost of running a stadium. However, if you're a season ticket holder, you will also rightfully, just like I would if I was owning into something or paying into something, say, hey, what am I going to get on my return for that? What am I going to, what kind of team are you going to provide? What are you going to put? How much money are you going to invest back into the team or put on the field, or where is that money going to go? Right? I mean, so I think it's completely valid to ask that and wonder that, and you would hope that they'll be able to, now that they've reset things, be able to climb a little bit.
Right, exactly. So if it's, and even our Dodger fan in the chat is understanding it because he thinks he's presenting an argument a different way, but we're saying the same thing. There are structural advantages to being the Los Angeles Dodgers that cannot be overcome other than in a short series on a baseball field. That's the only way. Like, the Padres can beat the Dodgers in a 5-game series. They almost did. They did it 2 years ago. They almost did it this year. They can beat the Dodgers in a 5 or a 7-game or a 3-game series on the baseball field. But year over year over year, you can't beat the structural advantage that LA has over San Diego.
Correct.
So that is immutable. That won't change. And when you're like, well, yeah, we've got a bigger market, we got this, that. I'm saying that, yes, of course, yes.
The Dodgers and the Yankees and the Mets and the Cubs, they're in an advantageous position where MLB allows for, or can't change it. It's already been grandfathered in, which are many rules that go around in industries, that they are allowed to run their own station, their own TV network, their own money, and that is the rule. It's like you play the hand as it lays, right? That is what MLB has allowed to happen. Until that changes, those teams who run their own networks are going to have a significant advantage over teams like the Padres, the Diamondbacks,
forever.
Because the money doesn't money. I mean, the not to mention the there is truth to the market and the viability of the market to be able to pay for more advertising or more Fortune 500s or more this or more that, or reaches more TV screens, whatever the numbers are that kind of do that. But it's those big markets that end up having their own TV stations a lot of times because they're able to really profit off of them and really sustain them, right? So,
because it's a bigger market, because therefore there's a bigger audience, which means you can get bigger ratings. All of this is true.
Because there's no floor, and there's no, now I think, and this is going to be an argument that we get to make going into the postseason because we'll have a lot of time,
right?
Because teams don't have to spend a certain amount. right? Like,
Right.
of course, that puts teams that are at the bottom like in a terrible position. Like, if you're a fan of one of those teams, how frustrating is that? Your team doesn't have to spend more than $60 million or $80 million or something. Like, that is very frustrating. But credit to, look, the Padres are smack dab in the middle this year. I think maybe even a little bit higher than the middle. So they're not like, hey, we're not going to the bottom here.
Right.
We're going to keep trying to be as competitive as we can be. But because there's also no cap, sky's the limit, right?
We'll continue the conversation after this
No
quick
floor, no
timeout.
cap.
Right, because it's a league decision. The question that was posed is the one I'd like to discuss. Like, well, why do you think that is? Why do you think it is that one team has an advantage over the other? Well, why do you think it is that Woolworths had to close but Walmart moved in? Like, it's a pretty straightforward comparison.
Do you remember Sears?
I do.
Parkway Plaza.
When we
okay.
come back,
First ever catalog.
we'll continue
Yes.
we'll continue the discussion, and at 11, we'll bring on Ben Clemens from Fangraphs to turn it from the big macro that we're talking about here down into the micro of what are the Padres doing with Luis Ariz? How do you value a guy like that? That's all coming up as we continue the baseball conversation on Annie and Elsten, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Oh, welcome back. It's Andy and Elsten here with you. 10:48 is the time. Stay tuned. Ben Clemens from Fangraphs is coming up. If you missed it, I'm giving you like the reading notice. You've got 12 minutes to get to Fangraphs and click on The Myth of Luis Arise and read through what he wrote earlier this week, and then come back ready with a report to give at 11 when Ben joins us, and we'll dive in. We'll dive all the way in headfirst into the value of Luis Arise. By the way, I think just pre-lining the interview, from what I've seen in some of his interactions since, I think one of the biggest points he was trying to make is that Luis Arise had a down year, which is true.
I took that away. I read it again this morning, and I got to tell you, yes, that's kind of the takeaway that I took away too, and one of the questions that I wrote to kind of get into this morning, because I'm not exactly sure. Well, it'll be good to talk to him and get his take on it, his perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. So looking forward to that coming up at 11. Just putting a button on what wound up being the first hour's discussion, because, again, there are structural advantages in Major League Baseball right now. And the best thing that has come to the big leagues, in my opinion, is the same thing that we decry once we get there, which is the expanded playoffs, short series, but getting teams in. Used to be that the league champion was it. That was the way it was in Major League Baseball all the way until the divisional era, which was in the late 60s that they started divisions. Until then, it was just if you won the National League, you went to the World Series. The American League winner went to the World Series, and everyone else just finished on the table where they finished. It's kind of like the English Premier League, right? Where the team that's at the top wins and everyone else, well, if you got there, you got there. Congratulations. By the way, in the English Premier League, there's only 3 or 4 teams that have a chance to win every year, and everyone else is fighting for the middle or fighting to stay out of relegation. On
the one hand, it's like, because the season is so long, I kind of get the argument of, if you just took the top teams that win the division, like, you are just rewarding the teams that were able to sustain a very, very, very long season and have the best record and give them a chance to then go on and win a World Series. But it would be a lot less fun.
Yeah, it would be a lot less fun.
It's a lot less fun to have, someone who can sneak in and expand the field a bit.
Right. And that's the whole thing, because as we just saw, getting to the playoffs is no guarantee that you're going to get through the playoffs. You've got to be hot at the right time. Yeah. Team gets cold at the exact wrong time. Something happens that throws your team off course for a couple of days. And in all likelihood, the very next week, if it was the regular season, they would have picked right back up where they would have been before. They would have refound their rhythm. They would have moved forward. But the thing, right? The thing you always have in the regular season is another opponent, quite often a mediocre or below average opponent, that you can get right against, find your health, find your confidence against, and then roll forward. You get to the playoffs, you're guaranteed to be facing a good team. By facing a good team, it means the game's guaranteed to be decided in the margins, right? Because it's almost never that someone's just going to throw a gas can out there and let you be up 8-0. So it's going to be decided on this little thing, that little thing, and then we're going to assign virtuosity and heroism and villainry and cowardice and choking and clutching and everything else that we assign. We're going to be doing it to this minuscule sample, decided on the margin, and assign all this meaning to it so that one team is more virtuous than the other. It's all nonsense. It's nonsense.
Well, and we talk about how random things are during the season, and players will tell you all the time how there's luck involved and there's randomness involved. But then we get to the postseason and we expect there not to be any randomness or any luck or any kind of just baseball-y things that happen during the regular season throughout the course of a 162. I also think it's important to remember as and I know no one wants to hear this, okay? Tune me out right now if you don't want to hear this. But it's, look, the Padres, to me, in my opinion, had the best roster. I can easily see where the Padres go and win the World Series. They had a very talented team, full of talented players, had really not many holes throughout this entire roster. They were really, really, really complete, and they had an incredible shot. However, sometimes I think it's forgettable that the Dodgers had the best record in the National League, and despite their injuries, they were also able to win a lot during the regular season. They didn't look like as Dodgers-esque as we see them during the usual normal season in terms of being like 20 games above the division or 15 games above the division or a 100-win season. But they still weren't bad. It's not like you lost to this bad team that out of nowhere had just won 80 games or something. I'm being obviously very exaggerated here, but what I'm saying is the Dodgers were still a good team. You were facing a good team that figured out a way to win throughout the entire season. And that was a hard matchup between the Padres and the Dodgers all season long into the postseason.
Absolutely. If nothing else, and here we are in San Diego, and I know Dodger fans feel like we're talking to them or that we're trying to, I don't know, bolster ourselves or buttress our own case. I mean, the reality is, if anything, I think Padres fans as a whole, and all of us included, read too much into an 8-5 season record against the Dodgers.
I sat here and said multiple times, they don't have the pitching. How can this team that has so many holes in pitching, barely has 2 starters, and you don't even know that one of them had given up 13 runs to the Padres throughout the season. I mean, it on paper, you're looking at it like the Padres are going to be able to at least have a really good shot at doing this.
Yeah.
But then their pitching, but then the Dodgers pitching ended up being pretty darn well, and I wouldn't just say it was just good against the Padres. It's been good against the Mets too.
It has been good against the Mets too. Let's take a timeout. First hour is done. And we're going to move the conversation from the big and broad into a very specific. One Padre, Luis Arraez. One of the most polarizing players, it feels like, in Major League Baseball. We're going to get into all of it with Ben Clemens from Fangraphs next. Hour number 2 of the program. Welcome back, everybody. Annie and Elsten here with you. Your midday hang on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan, with Annie Heilbrunn and Braden Soprenit. I'm Craig Elsten, together in our Odyssey studios. Sun shining down on Murphy Canyon outside our windows. And we're getting ready in for the 11 a.m. hour, which, of course, all season was our Padres deep dive. And while they may have, scraped the paint title of Padres Deep Dive off of the 11 a.m. hour glass fixture outside, nonetheless, we continue to talk Padres at 11 a.m. We'll just continue to do it. Why not? We're here. Let's go. And over the course of the week, there's probably been more discussion of Fangraphs on 97.3 The Fan than there was in any particular month of the 2024 season. Fangraphs, of course, a tremendous website that covers Major League Baseball 365 days a year and is, in my opinion, worthy of membership and support. Nonetheless, a discussion by Ben Clemens, author, The Myth of Luis Arraez. Heard the morning show talk about it, heard the afternoon show talk about it. We chatted about it a little bit, but I said, hey, you know what? Let's get Ben Clemens on the show. Let's see what we can, let's actually get into the conversation instead of talking around it. So it is with great pleasure that Ben Clemens, who we reached out, agreed to come on the program. And here he is joining us right now on the 97.3 The Fan hotline. Ben, good to meet you over the phone. Craig and Annie here in San Diego. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on, guys.
It's a pleasure, man. Luis Arraez is a polarizing player. The more you talk about him, the more it becomes the case. We did during the season a weekly Thursday roundtable where we'd have all of the different show hosts together. And I remember a couple weeks before he actually was acquired in trade, we did a segment like, what do you think about Luis Arraez? And it came back with so many different things. I believe I remember at the time saying I probably wouldn't trade for him. He's a positionless defender that has one carrying tool. And then he shows up, gets 4 hits in the first game, gets the game-winning walk-off hit. And it's like, oh, my God, Tony Gwynn is back in San Diego, one of the great bat-to-ball artists in Major League Baseball. So as a point of entry, Ben, what led you to get into writing about Luis Arraez's season, and what did you try to decide as kind of your path to evaluate his impact on the team?
Yeah, so the thing that really got me interested in writing this is watching basically the entirety of the Dodgers, Padres, NLDS. And, I was watching and I was thinking, like, this is Fernando Tatis's team, and what he does determines how these games go. Like, if he plays well and gets a little bit of help from the supporting cast, like, the Padres can score enough to beat the Dodgers, and if not, they can't. And, I was watching it with a bunch of friends, and I feel like we mostly had kind of the same vibe, but you can extend that to include, like, Jackson Merrill if you want. But really, it's the middle of the order with home runs and doubles. And that's how I was watching this series. But then I'd be listening to the commentary while I was watching it, and they were just like, "This is Luis Arraez's team. Like, he's the straw that stirs the drink. He's the one who makes them go." And I was like, "This is strange. This is a strange feeling here because I spend a lot of time watching baseball, analyzing baseball. I feel like I have a good sense of what's going on here, and it's not matching with what these, honestly, also highly compensated people who watch a lot of baseball and think about it are saying." And so I thought, well, that's weird. It's like you said, like, he really inspires a lot of takes. And so I thought, why am I having this different view than these baseball people who I really think are good at understanding baseball? And then I started diving in from there.
So when you look at Luis Arraez, how much do you take into consideration? Because he did have what you would call his worst season, right? He still hit 314, which I think a lot of people would take. But he was injured for a lot of the season. I mean, he had a torn ligament in his thumb. For much of the season, he was in a lot of pain when he was hitting. How much do you take into consideration when you're kind of looking at the stats and then taking that into evaluation?
Oh, man. If you're thinking about how Arraez is going to be next year, a lot. So if you look at kind of our estimations of his future production, they're much higher than they were this year. This, like you said, this is his worst year. He was hurt. And that that makes him worse, right? Obviously, like your thumb being hurt is really going to mess with your ability to play. So I think there's two separate questions here. One is, how good do you think he'll be going forward? And I think 2023 Arise is a good example of that. And that's a good player. Like there's really no way you can scrape that to say this guy's not useful. In 2023, he was hitting a lot more doubles. I think the thumb being hurt has mattered a lot for that. And he was also just getting on base a lot more. I think that's partially because he's just like, he doesn't want to swing. He doesn't want to like get deep into counts and work counts as much when every time he swings, his thumb hurts. I think it's really changed his approach a little bit. So two questions there. One, I'd say is, yeah, the injury definitely affects what you think of him in the future. But two, I'd say, look, unfortunately, that's who he was this year. Like he couldn't get surgery till the season was over. And it definitely impacted him, unquestionably. But if you're the Padres, you have to react to that and say, okay, this guy is, he's playing at less than 100%. And hey, thank you, Luis, for doing that, because that injury particularly is a real pain tolerance issue. And I'm very impressed that he was able to do it. But really, the Padres should say, okay, so we know right now we're getting, let's call it 85% of a rise. And I think that they didn't really react correctly to understanding that and say, okay, well, 85% of him is actually not what we're hoping for at the top of our lineup. And they didn't really kind of adapt to that.
Ben Clemens joining us from Fangraphs. Ben, I was just looking at kind of the evolution of Luis Arraez as a player, and you went through this a little bit in your article as well. I'm looking at one number in particular, which is chase percentage, because one thing that I think, and it's it's one of the eddies that we can twirl around in here in this conversation, where is the most effective place, sabermetrically, to bat Luis Arraez in a lineup and just straight baseball wise, right? But I'm looking at his chase percentage. Because Luis Arraez, who has been painted as a leadoff hitter, his entire career, early in his career, in fact, all the way through 2022, his chase percentage was 80th percentile or around there, 78th, 80th percentile,
Agreed.
right? In the league, he was really good at taking balls and swinging at strikes. Now, his highest average year, 2023, he started chasing more. That chase percentage fell to 28th percentile. This year, it was 11th percentile in the league. He was one of the chasiest hitters in baseball, and I just don't think that really comports with being an ideal leadoff hitter.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So we'll get into what I was writing about a little bit, but one of the things that I feel like has been a key talking point, I'd say, in the recent has batting average been de-emphasized too much, is, hey, a walk is not as good as a hit. And look, that's true. If someone is telling you that walks and hits are of the same value to a hitter, you should not listen to them. That's inaccurate, because lots of times hits advance runners. They can score runs more easily. And I think that's pretty obvious. That's the promise of Arraez, right? Is that, hey, he has pretty good on base percentage, but he does it in this extra valuable way of singles instead of walks. The problem is that he's a leadoff hitter, and there's one time when a single and a walk are the exact same, and that's with nobody on base. And so, like you said, the chase rate it really emphasizes it, but it just feels weird that you have this guy, and his skill is like, hey, he has disproportionate value when there are runners on base to move around with these singles, and then you bat him in the spot where that's least likely to happen, and instead kind of lean on his ability to get on base, and chasing less often is a great way to get on base. And it seems like that's just not compatible with what he wants to do these days. So I think that's kind of where I get at the disconnect is it is totally true that there are a lot of situations where you'd much rather have a hit than a walk. I mean, you were talking about, his first game as a Padre, walk-off single, amazing. Look, that's really what you want here, is that if there are runners on base, he's going to put the ball in play and things are going to move around. So it just rubs me the wrong way that especially a compromised version of him, he was hurt, is batting at a spot that is kind of the worst for him.
Yeah, Ben, first of all, I appreciate you coming on, because I know you're talking to a Padres station that has watched the team all year, right? And has probably some viewpoints or even eye test sometimes. I mean, I'm the last person to get into stats with you because it's definitely not my forte. But I will say, like, if I'm speaking from just behalf of like being in the clubhouse or being around the team, there was a lot of thought of like, look, he sets the tone, he puts pressure on the pitcher, and a hit might be better as a contact team. A hit might be better than a walk because it doesn't account sometimes for what we saw throughout the season, which was like an error or someone dropping a ball or the ability to put the ball into play and get yourself a base, or steal a base sometimes by the ability to do that. And so clearly if he had guys on base to be able to drive them in would be the ideal situation, right? So kind of what you're saying is the value with him, especially if he gets the strength back in his thumb and he's all right after that surgery, would you still move him a little bit deeper in the, lower into the lineup, maybe a 3 spot or a 4 spot, or where would you play him? Where would you hit him?
Yeah, 3 sounds amazing to me. And I wouldn't mind 2 either. Like somewhere where he's going to bat a lot still, because yes, he's one of the better hitters on the Padres. Like even this year, he was one of the top 5 or so hitters on the Padres, his worst form. I would definitely want him to be in the top half of the lineup. But I just want to stack it up to where these things matter more, right? Where like, hey, that error, it's great if he can get on base via that error, but it'd be a lot better if people are advancing too. He only reached on error twice this year, actually, because, he's not the fastest guy for a leadoff hitter, but hey, a field error that lets other people advance, that's like double valuable there. You're getting a lot more advancement for your buck. And I think 3 is probably the ideal spot for that because you got, kind of 2 chances to get somebody on base in front of him. And also, it's not like I don't really want to bat him 4th because I love batting. You can pick between Tatis and Machado, but I love batting somebody with a lot of power 4th.
Yeah.
I think that's just I can live with not doing it 3rd because it's just like it's going to come up less often that 3rd has a big 2 outs, runners to drive home from first base situation. It's hard. Like in the first inning, if there are 2 outs, well, there's nobody on for the 3rd place hitter. So I think 4th is a place where you really want a power guy, where you're just going to get extra kind of juicy home run situations in the first inning out of that. But 3rd seems great to me. The Padres have a lot of like hitters who are good at getting on base between Profar, assuming he comes back, but I kind of think he will. Merrill, like having those 2 guys and having them have a good chance to get on base and then have a rise bat, that sounds great.
We're talking with Ben Clemens from Fangraphs, who wrote a piece, The Myth of Luis Ariz, that got straw-manned a lot, I think, around here for a couple of days. So I kind of wanted to go the other direction with you, Ben, because the big question here is, what do you do with Luis Ariz? The Padres, refreshing for the audience if you forgot, when they traded for him, they added an extra prospect in the deal in exchange for Miami paying the entirety of Luis Ariz's salary this year. He is now into his final arbitration season, so he'll be due a raise, presumably, from over $10 million. Point of fact, A.J. Preller, in his history as Padres general manager, has never gone to arbitration once. He has come to terms every single time with every player. So odds are they will not go to arbitration, and the Padres will not have to present a case against Luis Ariz. They'll probably settle on a term. Nonetheless, it's a term the Padres have to pay this year as opposed to having someone else pay it. And then you've got free agency right around the corner. Also, he's a 27-year-old athlete. He's not at the end or, starting the decline phase of his career. There's still potential, right, for a little upside or growth for Luis Ariz. So my question to you, just laying that out as context for the listeners, is what type of contract could the Padres and Luis Ariz come to that would make him a valuable player for this team going forward?
Yeah. I expect his arbitration award to be somewhere in the like 13, 14 million range. And I'd be happy to pay that if I were the Padres to have Ariz on my team. I think that's like a completely reasonable rate. I don't think you're getting like the bargain of a lifetime, but I think almost every team in baseball, if you told them you can pay this guy $13 million for 1 year or not have him, they would pay him. And particularly the Padres, I actually think he sets up well for them. I mean, you said, positionless defender, and it's true, but it's okay because they have 17 shortstops. So, Like, he can go play one of the positionless positions because everything else is just completely kind of overdone from the defensive side. I actually think that the defense looked pretty good when they had to slide everyone up with Kim's injury because, like, really Cronenworth should be playing second base. I think he's a phenomenal second base defender. And that just means, like, when he was miscast at first base, then it was really weird having to rise. I don't know, stuff didn't quite line up because he can't handle second that well. But having him as a first baseman, I actually think checks a lot of boxes for the team. And additionally, like, look, a guy who hits a lot of singles is the kind of person you want on your high scoring team because you're going to have a lot of runners on base. Those singles are going to matter a lot. I think he's a really good fit for their lineup, actually, because a lot of other first basemen who you could imagine getting for a similar outlay don't really have the kind of skill set that, like, complements the Padres. And it's not easy to get, like, an elite first baseman. There just aren't that many of them anymore. So I think, all things considered, he's a pretty good fit. I would easily keep him in arbitration, and I kind of think they're going to work out a, I don't know, 4-year deal, call it, with money in the range of what he's going to make this year. And I think that can work out pretty well for all parties involved. Like, look, you can say that his value is being misconstrued because it so happens that his best statistic is batting average, but he's a valuable player. I think it's fair to say that he had a down year this year, but it's also fair to say that, look, you can get as sabermetric as you want. You can just say, like, I completely don't care about the batting title. I even dislike it because it makes people misunderstand. And he's still valuable. Like, our website still calculates his value fairly high because he's good. You can't really, he doesn't play defense that well. He doesn't run the bases that well. But when he's healthy, he gets on base a lot, and he hits a lot of doubles, and he hits a lot of singles, and that matters.
Yeah, and the last one for me, Ben, is the conversation when Luis Ariz came over. You know, when we were all learning about Luis Ariz, and Skip Schumacher from the Marlins was kind of telling us a little bit about him too, and how until you see him play every day, you sometimes are like, what's the big deal about this guy, right? And I completely understand your stats and the deep dive that you took into those and where they're coming from. And it is interesting how the guy's been traded, right? This is third team, 3 batting titles, and you could argue like the merit of how the batting title should be and everything, but 3 teams in 3 years means that he's not necessarily being valued by a lot of teams out there. And so, I mean, what is your take, just your opinion on, like, say he went to free agency, say he was a free agent, you know, starting now or whatever at the end of the World Series. How do you think that most teams would view him around the league? And do you think that he would be a big pickup, or do you think that it would kind of be another situation where he's kind of getting traded year after year?
Yeah. I actually don't blame him too much. Like, I don't think that, or sorry, I don't blame him at all for getting traded, but I think the reason that he got traded is not that these teams didn't see value in him. So I talked to some Twins personnel about this quite a lot at the time that the Twins traded him to the Marlins, because I was very curious. I had just ranked Ariz as one of the top 50 values, like contract plus player in the game. And then they went and traded him. And I thought, well, that's weird. What's going on here? But they didn't really have an easy place to play him, and they badly needed pitching.
Yeah.
So he got traded for Pablo Lopez. Both those guys are great. I think that trade is one of those, like, you know, the Padres make a number of these trades where it's trading strength for strength.
Yes.
And that doesn't say anything about Ariz, the player. It says something about him that he's good enough to get all-star Pablo Lopez more or less straight up. The Marlins-Padres trade, I think it says 2 things. One is that the Marlins were just, not good this year. And I can imagine that he was probably not very happy to be playing for a team that bad. You know, he's kind of been sniffing the playoffs everywhere he's been. You know, Minnesota was pretty good when he was there. Miami made the playoffs last year. And then to come out and be on, I mean, not the worst team in the NL because the Rockies are really bad, but a very bad team, I'm sure was not what he was looking to do this year. So I don't think the trades are a huge deal. I will say only teams that have a kind of a space at first base are really going to put a lot of value in him, because industry consensus and eye test consensus is that he can't really play a good second base. But look, I mean, not everyone can. That's okay. His skills are not in defense, but I don't think a lot of teams are willing to plug him into a defensive position that isn't first or DH anymore. And so that limits his market, because, you know, like there's Pete Alonso on the market this year. Vlad Guerrero is going to be on the market next year. They're like the teams that are really trying to spend at the top of the market for first base. You can get more production than Arise if you're going to spend at the top of the market. So I think he's kind of in the, like Josh Bell, to use a former Padre as an example. And he hit free agency 2 years ago and signed with Cleveland for, I think, like 2 years at $20 million per, something along those lines. And it wouldn't shock me to see Arise in similar territory. I think he's similarly valuable, which is a really nice player for your offense who's not going to give you any defensive value. But if you understand that, and if you understand that he's not like Shohei Ohtani level offense, then everyone's going to be happy. He's not going to make $40 million a year, but he's going to get 8 figures, I think, pretty comfortably. And yeah, I think the team that signs him will be one that thinks he's a good fit at first base.
Really cool conversation, Ben. Very thankful that you came on with us today. We'll hopefully be able to keep your number and get you on next baseball season as well. But on the way up, please tell everybody how they can not only consume but support Fangraphs as you go into the winter.
Yeah, thank you. That was a really nice setup. So Fangraphs is the website. It's fangraphs.com. You can consume our content there. We write about baseball year round, like you said. We cover the entirety of the playoffs, game story for every game, previews, predictions, whatever you're looking for there. Our big off-season push is going to be first a ranking of the top 50 free agents. That'll Tanner Scott actually features pretty highly, as does Profar. Those guys are they're going to be hotly contested this offseason. That'll come out essentially at the conclusion of the World Series. And if you want to support us, you can become a member. Fangraphs tries really hard to make baseball information accessible. So you can read 10 stories on our website and use all the stats you want for free every month. If you're going to read more than 10 of our stories, we ask that you join. We've got monthly memberships, yearly memberships. They really help support us doing the job that we do. It's a tiny company. I think there's 10 of us. And it's a labor of love. We all got into this because we love baseball so much. So letting us continue to do it is amazing.
We reference you guys a lot. I mean, you do amazing work on there. Yeah.
Well, that's why I'm a paid member. I appreciate you. Thank you so much, Ben. Enjoyed the conversation. Continue to enjoy the playoffs, and we'll talk to you down the road.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm happy to be on. Have a great day.
You too.
Thanks, you too. All right, that was really good.
We'll get into it more after, and I'm glad that he did point out the differences in the trades. I wasn't trying to say that Luis Ariz is, I think he's very valuable. Just with the market, like what the other teams, how other teams might value him. So I'm just glad he broke down. Like, he's right about the trades. They were kind of strength for strength with the Twins, and the Marlins was...
Whoopsie. Just a nice trade for us.
No one understands the Marlins, yeah.
Just a really nice trade for the San Diego Padres.
Yeah, and the Padres benefited from that for sure. So let's get into it after the break a little bit.
Absolutely. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back with our reactions. As the hour continues, we'll open up for your reactions here. Annie and Elsten on the Fan. Baseball coverage on 97.3 The Fan, presented by T-Mobile. Head to T-Mobile.com and get a great deal on an iPhone 16 Pro. Thanks again to Ben Clemens from Fangraphs for joining us. Fangraphs.com. If you want to read the article that spawned all the discussion, you can find it on there. And as he mentioned, you get 10 free ones a month on Fangraphs, plus full unfettered access to all. What do we use so many times? We use their roster resource page 200 times.
Yeah, and they have a lot of good looks at salaries and kind of value based and how teams use people. So I think it can provide a lot of perspectives, even on other teams sometimes, right? And the ability to kind of look at the Padres and how they do things, and how players stack up. I mean, I'll be interested in reading about their look at Tanner Scott and Jurickson Profar and what they think the market is going to command for those guys. But for Luis Arraez, it is so funny because he's the nicest guy ever. I mean, he hugs the catcher every time he walks up to the plate. And he is very controversial, he's always smiling and very fun and just kind of sparks this controversy among fans and even teams, I would say, in terms of what his value is. But I think he's a good fit for the Padres. I really do.
Well, I agree. I do agree. I think he is a good fit for this team and for this roster. And one of the main reasons, which Ben touched upon a little bit, is that the Padres are not built traditionally in terms of where they get their power. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, Jackson Merrill hitting for power is a huge part of the reason why I think you can keep Luis Arraez on this team, because the Padres can get power from their right fielder, from their center fielder, in theory, from their shortstop. He's at least had double digits 2 years. You'd still love to see a 25 homer season from Xander Bogaerts, but they get 15, 17 homers from their second baseman in Cronenworth. This year, as a point of fact, they got over 25 homers from their catcher position this year. So when you're getting power from lots of positions that traditionally may not contribute as much power, then you have the ability to have a first baseman or a DH that isn't a 30, 40 home run hitter. But that leads to a big part of the polarization around Luis Arraez, Annie, because one of the things that I think when people just use sabermetrics as a straw man to say, sabermetrics hates Luis Arraez, if you listen to what Ben Clemens had to say in that interview, he doesn't hate Luis Arraez. He thinks Luis Arraez is a really good, really productive player in Major League Baseball. That he holds a ton of value
and
in
has
Major League Baseball.
Expected value based off of probably that thumb healing and being able to even produce more.
Right, absolutely. However, the statistic war is never going to love Luis Arraez, because the statistic war is an all-encompassing statistic that is weighted based on the position you play. So a first baseman in WAR is expected to provide a level of defense, but more than that, a huge amount of offense that is going to overcome the positional disadvantage. And Luis, because he doesn't deliver power, isn't going to be able to provide enough offense for WAR to rate him highly when he's not providing defensive value. Defensive value is a huge part of WAR. The reason why Jackson Merrill led the team with 5.3 F-WAR is because not only was he a valuable offensive player and was better than other center fielders at his position, but defensively he played the position at a high level, and getting high-level defense out of your center fielder is inherently more valuable than getting high-level defense out of your first baseman, right? So all of those things stack up to make Jackson Merrill a 5+ WAR player, and that doesn't mean that the stat is mean to Luis Arraez or doesn't like Luis Arraez. It's that Luis Arraez plays a position that really depends on offense, and he doesn't play it defensively at the level that other first basemen do.
Yeah, I don't think he's a bad defender, though. I don't look at him and think he's a terrible defender at first base or terrible at first or second. I mean, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but
the numbers disagree. I mean, strongly. For example, on his Savant page, his fielding run value this year was 3rd percentile in Major League Baseball, meaning 97% was better than him.
Yeah.
Now, did he clank it 1,000 times when he was at first base? No, but also the Padres mostly played him at DH.
Yeah, they mostly
this year.
And that's the thing where I will give look at Ben and say, I do think he has a point, or something that could at least be looked at. Of, you knew his thumb was injured. He clearly needed surgery as soon as the season ended. So what were the decisions that went into continuing to have him lead off and continuing to play pretty much every day? And I know that Luis Ariz wanted to play, and he wanted to make the thumb a non-issue. In fact, closer to the end of the season, like maybe the last month or month and a half of the season, he didn't want to talk about his thumb at all. He was like, it's fine, it's great, it's no problems, and that's because he wanted to be in the lineup and he wanted to play. And, there is both parties have to be part of that conversation, the coaching side and the player side. And it's a team that knew they were going to the postseason. They probably wanted whatever of Luis Ariz they could get because they know he is valuable and he has been able to produce for them. However, it does beg that question a little bit of like, would he maybe been able to be more, or would there have been a better person maybe to lead off that maybe wasn't dealing with an injury, et cetera, et cetera. So that argument I can understand. I look at the power for the Padres, and even in the postseason, and they didn't obviously play as much as the other teams that have continued on, but they are up there in home runs. You know what I mean? It's not like a team that can't hit home runs.
No.
So, yeah, they're tied with the Mets for 11 home runs. The Dodgers 15, but they've all played more. And you look at the regular season, and they're 10th. And I just look at a team that wants to be a contact team and wants to hit the line drives, go gap to gap. And he seems like if that is the approach and the mentality that you want to build your team around, he still has that value.
He absolutely does. And I agree with what Ben said during the interview, which is that Ariz and the Padres seem to be well positioned to commit to one another over the course of, maybe 4 or 5 years, as opposed to letting him play it out and go to free agency. It's probably a losing bet for Luis to play it out and go to free agency and go head to head with guys like Vlad Guerrero in the free agent class, where every one of the sabermetrically aligned teams is already going to have a 30-homer first baseman, and they're going to look at his second base defensive stats and say, can't do it, can't play him there. So it makes him just like off the board for a number of teams that just won't commit to a DH slot for an average hitter, right? But for the Padres, they can give first base to Luis Ariz, put Cronenworth at second base. Now that puts Xander Bogaerts at shortstop. You've got Xander Bogaerts forever. You've got him for, well into the 2030s. So that part of the discussion, again, this is what makes him so complicated. Like, there's one level where, hey, just keep Luis Ariz. He's really good. He hits for a high average. He sets the tone. He's going to be better next year. We would almost all agree that in likelihood, 314 is probably like his floor.
And it's 314.
Right.
It's not his fault he was bad at leadoff. Like, he could have maybe been able to drive in more runs if he was batting second or third.
He could have, absolutely. But the biggest number for Luis Ariz, and this is the thing, I remember when I talked about this at one point in the year, and people were like piling on me about it. It's his on-base percentage. It's not his batting average. It's his on-base percentage. Because if you're leading off, and we talked about this during the course of the interview, it's also in the article, like in the pure situation, nobody on, nobody out, first batter of the game.
It's only once. It's only the first batter of the game.
Right.
I mean,
but it's also the decision you make to give him that slot. Only one guy gets to be that guy.
Right, but he has as much of a chance as coming up to the plate any other at-bat with someone in front of him if the guy gets on base, if the 8-9 hitter gets on base, 7-8-9 hitter gets on base. Like,
yes,
he's got... Does. He came up to bases empty a lot. Is that on him or is that on the 7-8-9 hitter?
You're guaranteed to lead the team in coming up with nobody on base if you're the leadoff hitter, because you get one of them.
You get one.
But you get one of them every game guaranteed.
Okay.
Whereas no one else has that as a guarantee, but he has it as a guarantee, right?
Yeah.
So
one time every game. Yes.
So that's one time every game.
Yeah.
That's one time every single game. That's 162 times if he plays every day. All right. And in those 100, so if he has 700 at bats, right? 162. All right. I'm not going to do the exact math, but that's a decent percentage of those at bats. 1 out of 5, 1 out of 4.5, right? In those at bats, if you're on first, it doesn't matter how you got there. If you got on first, you got on first.
Right.
So the walk and the hit at that moment are of exact equal value. Now, the hit is of more value runners on, later in the game, situationally. But in that situation, the situation that you only give to one player on your team, and you're giving it to Luis, his singles are less valuable then than they are in any other time in the game, because a walk would be literally as valuable.
I think if his thumb was better, he would also be able to hit more doubles. As we saw, he had extra base hits in other years. And the only way that you're going to score a run with the leadoff bat is a home run. So maybe if that's what y'all want, hey, put Fernando Tatis Jr. there. Start the game off with a home run.
Might not be a bad idea.
And that's that. And then don't complain, though, if he strikes out a lot and there's no one on base when Manny Machado hits a home run behind him. Or whatever, and you don't have someone else running in. You have to kind of trade one for the other. And I see people in the chat telling me that the leadoff guy gets the most at-bats. Yes, guys, I know that. What the argument that Ben was making was that it's guys in front of him. He's not able to drive guys in. And I'm making the argument that besides that one at-bat, he's got just as good of a chance as anyone at driving guys in throughout the rest of the game. It's just there's got to be guys on base in front of him. But yeah, I mean, if that is going to be your trade-off, if you want to guarantee yourself more of a chance to get one run in that first at-bat of the game, and I'm making it very simplistic, and I know it's not as simplistic as this, I would put Tatis there, and you're probably you could maybe get a walk, you could get a home run, you could get a strikeout, but you probably won't have a guy on base as much as you'll have Luis Ariz on base.
Yeah, and really this does become a fun off-season kind of
Yes.
theoretical discussion and argument, because I remember when we traded for him, I right away said I would hit Luis Ariz second or third. Where did Tony Gwynn hit in the lineup? Every once in a while they batted him leadoff, and he'd say, "Oh, I'm Larry leadoff for a while," because every once in a while they needed him to set a tone for the team, or no one else was hitting, and they needed to get Tony up there. But that's not where he hit for his career.
Yeah.
Because it's a waste of your hits. That's the whole point. It's a waste of the hits.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I could see the argument for putting him second or third and allowing him to move a runner over. If he's going to be able to put the ball, in play more than he does at the clip of 314 this season, then yeah, allow him to move a guy over. I would also make the argument, I see it in the chat too, that you could put Profar if he's still with the Padres. I hope he is, but if he, even this last year, you could have put him in the leadoff spot. And yeah, I completely agree with that. If it's not. Wouldn't be less valuable for Luis Ariz, it'd be more valuable for him to move someone over or drive someone in.
Yeah, and that's all. Because when you're a leadoff hitter, again, this is decades old. This is not new news. But when you're a leadoff hitter, your batting average is not your most important stat. It's your on-base percentage. It's how many times do you get on base. And there's been plenty of times in his career that Luis Ariz has reached base at a clip that is perfectly worthy of being a leadoff hitter. Just 2 years ago, all right, a year ago, 393. That's ideal, right? The year before that, 375. That's tremendous. 357, 364, 399. All of these are good numbers.
Yeah.
346 isn't a bad number, but compared to those other numbers, it's not as good. And that's where you get the combination of he reached at his lowest rate of his career.
Yeah.
The reason he reached at the lowest rate of his career was because he chased at the highest rate of his career. So he left 20, 30 walks on the table that he could have had to set the table. He instead eschewed those to hit outside pitches for outs or foul balls, or inside or high pitches or low pitches for outs or foul balls. And that difference is the difference in his on-base percentage for the year. So he gets healthier, but also gets a little more disciplined, and you can hit him wherever you want. Even saying that, he'll still help the Padres. The history of the math of it would suggest he will help the Padres with his hits more as a number 2 hitter than he would as a number 1 hitter. And that's our Luis Ariz discussion. Would you like to join it? We can open up the lines for you. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. And we'll talk about it when we come back. It's Annie and Elsten. Padres off-season talk, getting deep with you on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Welcome back, everybody. 11:49 is the time. Remember, the Odyssey app lets you jump back to the moments you missed on 97.3 The Fan. So if you were listening to the show earlier and you missed Ben Clemens' interview with us from Fangraphs talking about Luis Arraez, you only tuned in to hear our reaction segment to that. All you have to do is download the free Odyssey app, search 97.3 The Fan, and tap earlier today, and you can click to listen on demand. Go check it out inside the Odyssey app, AUDACY. Okay. Andy and Elsten back with you. Arraez is a fun guy to talk about. He is, in my opinion, he's a fun guy to talk about because he just is a weird fit in so many boxes.
Yes.
Right? Like, I look at his baseball savant sliders, and it's got to be the funkiest. It looks like your interval training map when you're running on a treadmill, right? Where you go really hard and then really low and then really hard and really low. And that's what it looks like. Expected batting average, 98th percentile. Exit velocity, 9th percentile. Barrel percentage, literally worst in the league. First percentage. Hard hit percentage, worst in the league. First percentage. Sweet spot, 98%. Almost the best in the league. Bat speed, worst in the league. Ability to square up the ball, literally best in the league, 100th percent. Chase percentage, 11th percentile. One of the 10 worst in the league. How about striking out? He's the best in the league at not striking out. How about walking? 3rd percentile. 97% of the league is better at walking than Luis Arraez this year.
The other thing that I don't know, and we talked about this earlier, is the Padres wanted them to be a contact team. They preferred contact over walks. Like, you take your walks when it's time, but you try to put the ball in play. And that might have been a mantra that was told to Luis Arraez. Hey, we want you to try to put the ball in play, and I don't know. I'm looking at the on-base percentage. I feel like I have this wrong, but I'm looking at regular season Padres. Jurickson Profar 380 on base percentage.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
And Luis Arraez is second, 346.
Right.
So I guess you could put Jurickson Profar as your leadoff.
You certainly could. If the Padres come to terms to bring him back, it's a player you could lead off. Annie, from the beginning of the year, said you could lead off Fernando. And I do agree with that. You can lead off Fernando. The version of Tatis that isn't chasing at a similar percentage to Arraez is an ideal leadoff hitter. It's just what the Dodgers have in Ohtani, essentially. I mean, it's not exactly, but it's kind of what the Dodgers have in Ohtani. A guy who can get on base, who can hit a home run to lead off the game, who you're always going to be afraid of because when your 6 hitter is up, you're thinking, okay, 4 away from Tatis. If the 8 and 9 guys get on, 2 on for Tatis, that can be a home run. This can be a double. It's a very exciting player to lead off because he's got that extra base percentage. If you put him on first, he's got a good chance to steal when he's healthy and he's right. And that's a part of his game that honestly has been underexplored of late because he either had an injury or he's been hitting with guys in front of him where he doesn't have those base paths open to run.
Yeah, I mean, obviously driving in a runner or moving a runner another base is preferable, right? And you can always set the tone with a home run. Tatis we've seen him do that plenty of times, and same with Jurickson Profar being able to work at bats, get on base. So I think you have a number of tone setters, guys that can set the tone. But what I'm looking at, though, is he was second on the team in on-base percentage. He wasn't bad. I mean, 346, and like you said, he could be better. I think you may lose an opportunity cost with being able to move somebody over because he does hit the ball so much. But, I mean, Jackson Merrill, on-base percentage, 326. Manny Machado, 325. Jake Cronenworth, 324. So he wasn't bad.
No. He was one of the best we had.
Yeah.
He just wasn't as good as he's been, right?
Yeah.
So it's completely fair to say that, and he was hurt. He hurt himself extremely early in his Padres tenure. Now, to be fair, also, he hit under 300 with the Marlins this year. But as Ben Clemens said, a stat guy making a narrative argument, but I agree with it. He was playing on a dead last derelict team, go nowhere team. They started whatever they started, 9-40 or whatever. So maybe that, left him in kind of a go nowhere feel for the beginning of his season. Nonetheless, a refined, healthy, top of range Luis Arise is a very valuable player in Major League Baseball. And the thing I'm happiest about having been on and hearing from him himself is to knock down the straw man, which is Fangraphs hates Luis Arise. Look at that. Stats say Luis Arise sucks, but he's good, and stat means stats are wrong. And I've heard that argument. I've heard it here. And it was inaccurate all the way through. You heard him say himself, one of the most valuable players in baseball when he's playing the way he can play. He didn't play that way to the same level this year. It is fair to point that out, but it's just as important to point out this is what you need. Your hand, your thumb. And when the ligament's
Definitely
torn
had
in
an
your
effect.
thumb, it's going to affect you massively. Massively. All right, there we go. 2 hours deep. 12 o'clock Sports Fix Weekend Preview Edition is coming up. Our lunch hour is filled with fun, including Fast Money and Braden's football segment. Whoa, so stay right here on The Fan. It's 12 o'clock. It's a Friday.
Friday.
You ain't got no work.
Nope.
Just hang out with us. It's Annie and Elsten, your midday hang. On San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Annie Heilbrunn, Craig Elsten, Braden Suprenant, all together in our Odyssey studios, ready for the third hour of our 4-hour program. Gwen and Chris will check in from 2 until 6. Then, in a darkened studio, all by himself, no one else in the entire building, Matt Scraby will be one man alone.
A Friday night.
You know what's a bummer is Halloween is on a Thursday. He's not going to get that show because they don't doesn't the station play the Thursday night football?
Thursday night football, yeah.
And I think that was like prime, like
Prime
a prime Scraby
Scraby
show. Yes.
It's an hour of Scraby grievances while everyone's handing
Although
out trick-or-treat candy.
I
Halloween
also think
version.
there'll probably be like a great Christmas version for him too, where like it's like grumpy Christmas, like
I'm here for the world.
cranky Christmas. Yeah.
I'm here for this fan fiction in which Matt Scraby not only has to work every holiday, but has to work every holiday by himself. Just
No one
in
else
here
in here.
alone.
Yeah.
Computer crashes. Well, that's just great.
Is it Cratchit? What's the guy from Christmas Story?
Oh.
Or the Christmas, what's it called? With Scrooge. Who's the guy that works the whole time? Because he's got Tiny Tim as his
Oh,
son.
yeah.
Oh.
Mr.
Is
Ratchet?
it Cratchit?
Cratchit. Bob Cratchit.
Bob
Thank you.
Cratchit. He's Bob,
Bob
Cratchit of the
Cratchit.
radio station.
Bob Cratchit's kind of ratchet. All right. With all of that kibitzing done, let's get you to your weekend preview. Here we go. It's time for the fix. It's all the sports news that's fit to speak for Friday, October 18th, 2024. Your 12 o'clock sports fix on Annie and Elsten. Playoff baseball, championship playoff baseball, taking the first spot in, we've agreed. High enough on base percentage for Annie to bat leadoff here.
Go ahead and put earmuffs on for about 20 seconds. Shohei Ohtani and Mookie Betts combined to reach base 8 times while going 5 for 9 with a pair of homers and 5 RBI in the Dodgers' 10-2 win over the Mets at Citi Field. They became the first duo atop a lineup to score 7 runs in a game since Derek Jeter and Alex Rodriguez accomplished it in 2009. The Dodgers now lead the series 3-1. They play Game 5 today at Citi Field. If they win it, they advance to the World Series. It'll be Jack Flaherty starting for LA, David Peterson for the Mets. Everybody needs to put out their Care Bear stare for Grimace. Grimace, we need you to show up today. First pitch is at 2:08 p.m. again at Citi Field. It's not hard, guys. Take the subway, get there. All right.
Guy was like 6 or 7 Modelo's deep last night.
He was. That was
The
so funny.
photo I sent you guys.
That was so funny. I at least appreciated that. Braden sent us a clip of Grimace was sitting in the stands, and it was just a perpetual beer, a Modelo, to his mouth the whole time.
See, like that,
Who can blame him?
It went right back to Craig's conversation that we had a couple days ago about imagine spending that money to go sit
Yeah.
in the seats wearing the Grimace costume. Nobody has any idea you're the drunk Grimace, but you look like the drunk, miserable Grimace.
He committed to the bit. All right, there was a ton of late drama in Cleveland last night, as we mentioned earlier. The Guardians won an extra inning thriller. They took Game 3 at 7-5 over the Yankees in 10 innings. A 2-run pinch hit home run tied the game in the 9th from Big Christmas, and a 2-run walk-off home run won it in the 10th. The Yankees lead the series 2-1. Game 4 is today. It'll be Luis Gil for the Yankees and Gavin Williams for the Guardians. First pitch, 5:08 p.m. at Progressive Field. Yankees reliever Ian Hamilton left last night's Game 3 loss in Cleveland with what the team called left calf tightness. The right-hander told the New York Post that he'll go for imaging before tonight's game. Infielder Yohan Moncada is going to get some reps next month. Per Francis Romero on Twitter, Moncada will play for Cuba in the upcoming Premier 12 tournament, which is set to take place in multiple countries in November. He's likely happy to get playing time. He only got 45 plate appearances over 12 games in 2024 due to injuries, and he is about to become a free agent. The Sox have a $25 million club option to keep him around for 2025. They will most certainly go for the $5 million buyout instead. And that is what I have for you on a Friday. Brought in.
What?
All right.
Brudden.
Brought in over
Come
to
on.
you.
Come on, brah.
Bruh.
Let's bring us the football story.
All right, I'll go with the high school and college realm, and we'll be back with NFL after Craig's other sports. We'll start with high school. Some scores last night in the San Diego section. Holtville over Vincent Memorial last night, 52-14. El Cap and Santana in a close one in the Battle of Lakeside versus Santee. Neighbors out there in East County. El Cap wins 14-7 in the Grossmont Valley League. They are still the favorite to win
The Vaqueros.
Grossmont Valley.
Is that right?
Yes, the Vaqueros.
The Vaqueros, yeah.
Against the Sultans. It was
Vamos
the Vaqueros.
Vaqueros.
Sultan, yes.
El Cap wins by 7. Tonight, we got some great football games throughout San Diego County. We got the two best teams in the Avocado League, or the two best teams in the North County, La Costa Canyon and Mission Hills. That game will be in Encinitas at La Costa Canyon High School at 7 o'clock. LCC projected to win, according to CalPreps, 28-22 over Mission Hills. We have the best two city conference schools battling it out tonight in Del Mar. That would be the number 1 ranked team in San Diego. 77th best team in the country. The Lincoln Hornets travel up north to take on the Cathedral Catholic Dons at 7 o'clock. Lincoln is favored to win that game by 9.
Lies!
At the West in the big battle for the Western League.
John Maffey says Cathedral will win by 3. I'm reading it right here.
That's John Maffey's against CalPreps predictions.
All
so
right.
it's the human versus the computer there, Craig.
So computer likes Lincoln.
Computer likes Lincoln.
Maffey likes the Dons.
Maffey likes the Dons. Both of those games that I mentioned, LCC and Mission Hills, Cathedral Catholic and Lincoln, could be previews of open division playoff games, as all 4 of those schools are expected or are currently in an open division playoff spot. Not so fast. Out in East County, there are 2 teams battling it out. The 2 best teams in East County in the Grossmont Hills League, the Granite Hills Eagles travel to Mount Miguel to take on the Matadors. That game's at 7 o'clock at Mount Miguel. Granite projected to win by 4, 35-31, according to CalPreps.com. Should be a fun one. Granite really needs this game if they want to make the open division playoffs. Might need a little bit of help out of some North County schools, but that is another big game out in East County. Helix at Grossmont. This is significant to some.
Yes.
Grossmont has not beaten Helix since 1996. They play every year for the Musket. And as my dad, a Grossmont Foothiller alum, would say, that musket is probably nailed to the library somewhere. I don't even think Helix knows that it exists. Last time Grossmont beat Helix, Tommy Carlo, former Grossmont head coach, was the quarterback. My dad was actually a part of that staff as the defensive court, called the defense that night for Grossmont High School. They have not won since I was 1 year old. So hopefully Grossmont can maybe get a victory against the Highlanders. Every year I bring this up.
If they win, Joe Musgrove, you
Joe
take your
Musgrove.
bionic arm out there. Yes.
Yes, hopefully Joe Musgrove can be out there. Anthony Lawrence, a Grossmont Foothiller alum in charge of the Foothillers, might have a chance tonight. Who knows? Helix projected to win 49-31. It's been a one-sided affair.
I
in
almost
this
want to go to
rivalry.
this now.
I know, it's like really dramatic.
This is the school that James would like to lottery into
Helix.
against the school that if we did nothing,
He'd go
he
to.
would default into in Grossmont. So, I mean, maybe just for safety's sake, we should just bring him to be like, well, I mean, look, Grossmont's right there.
Yeah.
Battle for the musket. You
Right
can show
down
them
the
the
street.
mural, everything like
Yeah,
that.
walk past the mural.
Yeah.
The musket. We don't know where the musket is.
The
musket.
I don't think
Hidden
anybody
in a
on the
back
Helix
closet.
team knows that they have a rivalry trophy with Grossmont. They've had it for so long, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Those are some of the
Musty
big games tonight. Other ones: Torrey Pines at Carlsbad should be a good one. Poway at El Camino. And the other one that's also great, also in the City Conference, University City and Scripps Ranch. That is a big game with 2 undefeated teams in, I think, the Eastern League. They're in the Eastern League.
I'm seeing it right here.
Scripps Ranch is projected to win 35-28 according to CalPreps.com. University City has a lot of great athletes that they've kind of played tight the last couple of weeks against some other opponents. They just knocked off Brawley last week. The winner of this game will definitely be in the Division I playoffs. Scripps Ranch at University City. That game starts at 7. And as I tell everybody every time, if you live in the North County, if you live in East County, if you live in the city, you can find games to go to. No more excuses anymore. Padres are in the playoffs. Need something to do. Go support your local high schools. We got great games for you. If you live in East County, go to Mount Miguel High School in Spring Valley. They host Granite Hills. If you live up in the North County, Mission Hills at LCC is going to be a great game. If you live in the Del Mar area, Cathedral hosting Lincoln is going to be a huge game, number 1 versus number 2. And then if you live more, kind of central, University City hosting Scripps Ranch. Those are the 4 best games coming up tonight. It's going to be a great time. College football. Georgia plays Texas. Do you guys remember the last time Georgia played Texas?
Nope.
No.
And what happened with the mascots?
Uh-oh.
They both have live mascots.
Right. You got Bevo and you got Uga.
Yeah, you got Uga and you have Bevo. Bevo is a gigantic longhorn. Bevo got spooked by Uga and almost gored Uga last time at the Sugar Bowl. So
Don't do that.
there will be no sequel to the famed first meeting of iconic mascots. They brought the dog over, and Bevo did not like Uga the Bulldog and almost had a disaster on their hands at the Sugar Bowl. Georgia's mascot, Uga the 11th, will not make the trip to Austin. His owner, Charles Sealer, told the Austin American Statesman.
Probably smart.
Sealer said travel logistics for the 2.5-year-old English Bulldog made the trip difficult. Also, Uga 11 skipped Georgia's last road game against Kentucky earlier this season. Quote, "There's a lot of wear and tear on the dog," Sealy told the Statesman. "Those games way out in the middle of the country are hard for us to get to. The dog that we have, well, he's not new, but he's only 2.5, and we haven't flown him yet, and he hasn't been on the team bus yet. It would have been a 17-hour drive if they wanted to drive there, since they didn't want to put him on a plane." Again, the previous Uga 10, had a minor run-in with Texas Longhorn steer mascot Bevo prior to the 2019 Sugar Bowl between Texas and Georgia. In the pregame photo op, Bevo knocked over the police barricade and appeared to charge at little Uga. Let's try to avoid that disaster. No need to bring the dog. The dog can stay.
I mean, the fact they have to account for this and figure it out, and then probably make a statement about where is the dog and is he okay? And this is it, man. This is what happens.
It's not crazy. It's just college athletics.
It's just Uga.
It's Uga. Mascots feuding, live mascots.
Yes.
Are they going to bring Ralphie the Buffalo to Texas
I
one
feel
time?
like every mascot is live. It's a human being, isn't it?
Well,
we call them plush mascots.
Saying,
allegedly.
We're live as in they have the
as
animals.
opposed to an actual animal. Yeah.
Right, like Mike the
An actual
Tiger. I
animal.
think it'd be kind of rough to bring Mike the Tiger.
I
on the
mean, once you have a
sidelines.
tiger as your mascot, I'll bet. I mean, now we're in the what was the movie? The Vegas. Now we're in.
the Hangover.
Hangover. Now we're in the Hangover.
I like
Wow.
it.
Thank you. Yeah.
Out of all the live mascots, Ralphie the Buffalo might be my favorite. Which
You
nobody
guys.
knows where Ralphie lives except for 2 people. He's hidden. She, I think it's a she now, is hidden on campus somewhere. Nobody knows where she lives.
Braden's got NFL in a minute, but first, let's start with our local teams. The San Diego Gulls open their 2024-25 AHL home schedule tonight when they host the Coachella Valley Firebirds at 7 p.m. So if you don't want to go to a high school football game tonight but want to go to a sporting event, there are still limited tickets available. Gulls are trending toward a sellout. They usually sell out their home opener, but you can still get some in the upper deck. Probably in the lower deck if you want to pay. Belt bag, rally towel, wristband giveaways, $5 Mason Ale Works beers. If you don't go to the game, you would have to pay to watch it on the AHL.com. I looked it up today just to find out for sure. It's like $30 a month if you want to watch yeah.
Okay.
If you want to watch AHL hockey and not be there.
All right. Well,
$30 a month.
$30 a month.
At your own risk. San Diego Wave FC plays out their NWSL schedule on national TV tomorrow morning. They will take on the Kansas City Current from Kansas City at 10 a.m. on CBS. So, not exactly the best foot forward for the Wave, but they will nonetheless be on CBS. And if they win, they're not necessarily eliminated yet.
Okay.
They need literally every result to go,
to
their,
go
way,
their way.
but they're not completely, like they could be eliminated later in the afternoon.
Yeah. Well,
But as of like noon, they would not
They're
be
still
eliminated.
alive.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the Wave announced the formal completion of purchase and ownership transition to the Leichtman family out of Los Angeles. This was reported all the way back in March, and we talked about it on the Sports Fix. A record price of sale of over $110 million for the Wave, highest price ever for an NWSL franchise. Lauren Leichtman will take over as the club's NWSL governor for Ron Burkle, the Hollywood producer who previously was the owner and held that role. Lauren's son, Zachary, will be the number 2. Game 4 of the WNBA Finals is tonight in Minnesota as the Lynx host the New York Liberty, trying to send the series back to New York for a decisive Game 5. Liberty, with a win, would close out their first ever WNBA championship. The Liberty won Wednesday night 80-77 in dramatic fashion on Sabrina Ionescu's logo 3 with under 10 seconds remaining. That game will be on ESPN at 5 o'clock. It's really not surprising. In fact, it's kind of predictable, but it's still a big-time drag. The Clippers announced that Kawhi Leonard, Aztec for life, will miss the start of the season and quite possibly a good part of the season with persistent right knee inflammation. He is out indefinitely. In the words of the Clippers, also, he has not participated whatsoever in anything physical for the Clippers during the preseason.
During his time with the Clippers in general?
I mean, well, he played a Clipper career high in games last year.
Wow. How many was that?
I
Like
believe it was
6?
68. I
Oh,
think it was
wow.
68. Yeah.
Braden.
So mean.
Kawhi never plays, man.
Well,
He
that's the
does
whole
have.
thing.
He does have. He's had quite a few injuries.
had a lot of
yes.
He's had chronic injuries. Nevertheless, the Clippers gave him a 3-year, $153 million contract extension in January of this year. So they are going to pay him a lot
Yeah.
to
That's
wear
guaranteed
his
money.
logo.
Yeah.
Whether he's on the court ever or not, he will be wearing the Clippers logo around. The Clips beat Sacramento in their preseason finale last night. Lakers beat the Suns in overtime. They'll play Golden State tonight in their preseason finale. And then the NBA season starts on Tuesday night. Last night in the NHL, LA Kings skated past Montreal 4-1. Tonight, the Ducks, who are 2-1 to start the season, go to Colorado to take on the 0-4 Avalanche. Finally, silly season PGA leaderboard, second round at the Shriner Children's Open, TPC Summerlin in Las Vegas. Taylor Pendrith is your leader at 10 under par after a first round 61. Wow, 61. Unbelievable. Jacob Bridgman is on the course through 4 at 8 under, and then a host of golfers are at 7 under par. A little bit of controversy in the PGA discussing these post-FedEx Cup tournaments because they traditionally have the weakest fields of the year, but they still enjoy all the benefits that a PGA Tour champion gets, including going into the Masters next year, getting the automatic invite into all of the majors. So a little bit of controversy around that right now in the PGA, but at the end of the day, let these guys play and get a win and get into the Masters. Who cares? All right, that's it for me. Back to Braden for the National Football League.
Forgot to mention we've got some college football games tonight. Oregon at Purdue. Sounds like a trap game. At 5 o'clock on Fox.
It's a crap.
They play Ohio State at home. They beat Ohio State at home in a just hell of a game. And then they got to go play Purdue on a Friday night on the road on a short week, a place that Big Ten teams go to die when they play a lousy Purdue team. I thought they left the Pac-12 to not have to do this anymore. Well, hopefully Puddles the Duck can handle Purdue. Oklahoma State plays BYU. Great football games this weekend. We got the third Saturday in October, Alabama at Tennessee at 12:30 p.m. Pacific time. Other big games for you. Georgia at Texas. Some big games in the SEC this weekend.
Oh, and by the way, Georgia at Texas airing live on 97.3 The Fan.
There you go. And just to say, because Adam was freaking out, there's not lines on these high school games. Those are projected win.
I can't go
totals.
to FanDuel,
No,
or
but
like your 17-year-old middle linebacker can't go to FanDuel.
one time
Please no.
when we played at Reno, in Reno one time, the local casinos do have lines on the high school games in Reno.
Good Lord.
Take that for what it's worth. Mike Tomlin doesn't want to say who's starting at quarterback. He's still been hush this week on who's starting at quarterback on Sunday night, whether it's Russell Wilson or Justin Fields, who had been the starter for a long time. Russell Wilson's been dealing with a calf injury. Well, wide receiver George Pickens seemingly confirmed Russell Wilson will make his first start of the season against the Jets. Quote, yeah, we've been getting on the same page after practice, throwing more than usual because this is his first start, Pickens said when asked whether he has been working with Wilson extra during practice this week. But half an hour before Pickens' interview, Tomlin declined to reveal anything about the plan when asked whether he was ready to name a starter. I am, but I'm just going to keep it in-house, Tomlin said. But I thought Wilson was sharp. I thought Fields was sharp as well. I thought we had a highly productive week from both guys and from the unit as a whole. Did George Pickens let the cat out of the bag, guys?
Yeah.
Or are they playing extra games? Mind games? I think George Pickens let the cat out
I
of the
think
bag.
that,
Yeah,
I'm with you on that.
Do you think he got a stern talking to from Mike Tomlin?
I think he got a very stern talking to by multiple people.
Yeah, it's his first start. Yeah, we worked a little bit extra. I thought Mike Tomlin said you have a starter.
Yeah.
You know,
we're
he
gonna
might
keep
start.
it-
Did I say that? You know, he might start. We
We're
don't
going to
really
keep
know.
it in-house. Yeah.
Anthony Richardson will be starting. He'll be making his return to the starting lineup Sunday against the Dolphins. Missed the past 2 games with an oblique injury sustained in Week 4, giving way to veteran Joe Flacco to play against the Jags and Titans. Coach Shane Steichen decided against playing Richardson last week against Tennessee, saying he wasn't fully healed. But this week, Richardson took all the starters' reps and was a full participant. Colts will be without running back Jonathan Taylor for the 3rd straight game as he continues to recover from a high ankle sprain. Good news for the Colts. Quarterback's back. Bad news, your all-pro running back is not back. Speaking of all-pro running backs, Cleveland Browns have ruled out leading rusher Jerome Ford because of a hamstring injury, but Nick Chubb will make his season debut Sunday against the Bengals. It is remarkable he is even able to run with the knee injury that he had, after the second to that knee that he has had in his career. But he's been practicing the past 3 weeks. His returns from a severe left knee injury suffered last year. Listed as questionable, but Kevin Stefanski said he expects him to play. So Nick Chubb is back.
See how long, right?
For the Browns, no Jerome Ford. That's your injury update, and that's it for the NFL.
And,
I have an errors and omissions. Jay Postorero, thank you, on Twitter. Love the show, but as an FUI.
FUI. I've never heard that before, but I want to use it from now on.
Man, I'd love to give some FUIs.
Here's an FUI.
I don't know where that came from, but clearly
Amazing.
back of my head somewhere. It's pronounced Luis Heel. I said that. I said Luis Gill. It's a Gill. It's not. It's Luis Heel. J Heel.
Heel. Yes, like
All
Benji
Heel.
who we always used to call Benji Gill when he was
Right.
at Eastlake.
But Jay, you are correct, and I appreciate the correction. And it will be Luis Heel on the mound for the Yankees tonight.
And he's taking a note.
What?
And he's taking a note.
I did take it now, and I appreciate the
that's
correction. Yeah, it was nicely said to me. And FUIs on the way.
We talk about so many athletes all the time. It's hard to keep up with all of them.
No, I do need to because I'll not always as up to the pronunciations on other players on other teams, but we're in the playoffs. This needs to be checked by me. So yes.
Let's take a time out. When we come back, we'll stay on the pigskin tip with Braden's football segment and get you ready with some thoughts on some of the biggest games coming up in the NFL, including our beloved Lions.
Beloved.
Showdown of the week.
Play that weird song that they have.
Yes. Oh, please.
I don't really want to play it.
Can't we?
Maybe.
Can't we, though? I think we could.
Which
Remember
song?
the roar,
no.
Lions
Roar.
roar. Ba-da, a victory.
I think Jake Waters needs to call in and sing it for us.
Bum, 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 bum.
No.
How about on
Well, I
our,
guess I just kind of did it
Yes.
right there.
on Twitter? Jay Ball on Twitter goes,
Unfortunately.
"How do you hide a buffalo?" It's hidden. Nobody
With a
in
very
nobody
large
in Boulder
blanket.
knows where the bison is. They don't know where
I
Ralphie
always
is.
appreciated when the Chargers played the Broncos in Denver
Yeah.
and the horse would ride across the field during a touchdown.
It's great.
And then you would go down to the bottom of the stadium and wait for like the post-game interviews and the post-game field stuff. And then there's the horse. I forget the horse's name, but there's like the horse in its little stable, like right there
Just
in the
hanging out.
bottom of the
Just chilling.
yeah,
waiting for
in
a carrot.
in the waiting for the game to end and someone to take it back. Oh man, it's Thunder. Thunder is the horse.
Thunder
Okay.
the Bronco.
Thunder the Bronco.
How do you hide a buffalo?
I don't know.
One bite at a time. Oh, no, wait, that's something else. We're back with Braden's football segment next on The Fan. We have a liner. Don't let AI dictate your fantasy lineup. Instead, get bite-sized fantasy football analysis in your ears. Listen to the Sleeper King podcast, giving you all the fantasy insight you'll need, just 20 minutes per day. Every league has a Sleeper King, and it should be you. Follow the Sleeper King on the free Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. Okay, back with you on Annie and Elsten. Annie Halbrun, Craig Elsten, Braden Soprano. The music has entered.
Music has entered the chat.
Time for Braden's football segment. Let's get ready for the weekend that will be week 7 of the National Football League. 11 to go.
It's going to start really early in the morning. You guys could tell me how this game goes when you wake up early and watch it. Thanks for filling me in on Monday. At 6:30 a.m. Pacific time, it will be aired right here on our airwaves on 97 through the Fan. No Braden Soprano show for the 4th week in a row.
Oh, look at you.
Wow.
I know. Yeah. I got a long Saturday anyway, so it works out. Patriots at the Jags in London.
Ooh, 1-5 against 1-5.
Yeah.
I can't wait not to watch this.
Again, tell me how it goes. Jags are favored by 5.5. Who you guys got?
Well, the Patriots enter this matchup on a 5-game losing streak. That's tied for the longest by New England over the past 30 seasons, but the Jaguars also 1-5. I'm going to go with the Jaguars on this one.
Jags have been out there for 2 weeks now. Patriots are just crossing the pond. So for maybe only 1 week.
Maybe they're already acclimated. Wait,
Yeah,
no, Jaguars already just crossing the
Jags
pond?
played there last week.
Oh,
so they've
I'm
been
going with
there
the
for a
Jags.
while. I'm going to go with the Jags on that principle anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, Trevor Lawrence has just been, poor guy, has been losing so many games as a starter.
They get possibly Tyson Campbell back, so their top corner. That might help the secondary and maybe be a little bit more aggressive.
Give me the points, take the under, and don't watch this game at all cost.
Buy or sell Keon White, defensive
5
lineman for the
1-5.
Patriots, will sack Trevor Lawrence. He has a strong 20% pass rush win rate, but the Jags tackles rank bottom 10 in pass block win rate. I will buy that. I think Keon White gets a sack.
Yes,
Sounds
I buy
good.
that too.
Back to normal hours. Seahawks at Falcons at 10 in the morning on Fox. Atlanta's favored by 3. Seahawks 3-3. Falcons are 4-2.
This one's for the birds. That's all I have.
All right.
The Seahawks have scored 20-plus points in all 6 games this season. The Ravens and Commanders, the only other teams to do the same. Yet, the Falcons, though, 4-2. I'm going to go with the Falcons here.
Falcons, Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier both had breakout games in Week 6, combining for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground. I think they're going to be able to do some damage against the Seahawks, who have allowed the 5th most rushing yards in the league, 5 yards per carry. Doesn't matter how high-octane offenses are, if you can run the football and stop the run, usually you're going to win some football games. I'll take Atlanta at home. Buy or sell, Falcons outside linebacker Matthew Judon will record at least 1.5 sacks against Geno Smith.
1.5 is a lot. Let's go with 1.
You sell it.
I'm selling.
I'm going to buy it.
I'll buy it.
I feel like FanDuel things. Here's the thing in this article that I'm going to put my little hat on and hang on it. DK Metcalf is facing a bad cornerback in the Falcons' A.J. Terrell, who has consecutively struggled against 4 other good receivers. So if Metcalf is good and kicking butt and dominating his matchup, that gives Seattle a chance on the road. Go Hawks.
You're going Seattle.
Why not?
Okay.
Titans
I'm not putting any money on it.
Titans at Bills. Bills are favored by 9.5. Titans are 1-4. They look abysmal. Passing game has gotten off to a terrible start.
They got
90,
way too deep in our NFL eliminator.
Yes.
The Titans.
I know. 95-yard passing performance by Will Levis last week. How is that even possible in the NFL in this day and
It's
age?
getting warm.
Through 5 games, the offense is averaging 135 passing yards per game. That's 31st in the league
That
for
is
Tennessee.
rough. That is
Ugh.
worse than like Army and Navy. And they run a triple option. Well, look for the Titans to try to get into the passing game, I guess. Calvin Ridley was upset last week that he's not getting the ball enough. I can see why. 95 yards passing by Will Levis. It might be a quarterback problem. Stat
Amari
to know,
Cooper.
Annie?
Well, stats to know is the Titans lead the NFL in total defense, which is their 3rd fewest yards allowed per game. In the first 5 games since 1976, it's 248.8 yards per game. But they do get Amari Cooper, don't they? I mean, on the Bills side.
They do. Buy or sell.
I don't know if he'll be like super up to date, right? But
Well, let's talk about Amari Cooper. I got
okay.
the Bills in this one. I think they cover it's hard to cover 9.5 points. But I think they do because the Titans are awful. Buy or sell, Cooper will record a 40-plus yard reception in his Bills debut.
Not only am I buying this, I think it'll be on one of the first 3 plays of the game.
I'm buying it too. They're going to use their little new weapon, their new shiny toy, and they're going to make it happen.
And if there's one route that every receiver knows, it's fly.
Run.
Fly down the field.
Catch the
Run.
ball.
Just run.
I'll get it to you, buddy.
Cooper is a deep threat for the Browns this year. Buffalo acquired Cooper to be their deep threat. They didn't have one. I will buy that. Bengals at the Browns. It's a rough day in Ohio. Bengals are 2-4. Browns are 1-5. Bengals are a little bit better than what their record shows, but you are what your record is. Bengals are favored by 5.5. I will take the Bengals minus 5.5.
The Bengals have an NFL worst 47% defense success rate against the run. All other teams in the NFL are above 50%, so they cannot defend the run at all.
Nick Chubb coming back from injury.
Yes.
Though, and no Jerome Ford. I will still take the Bengals.
Bengals to win, Browns to cover.
I'm taking the Browns.
Browns to win outright.
Yeah, just Browns are going to win.
Bold prediction, Trey Hendrickson. The Bengals defensive end will sack Deshaun Watson 3 times. Sell.
Sell, he's going to do it 4 times.
Wow. So you're buying it then,
I mean,
at least.
At least.
Watson is taking sacks at an outrageous 12.4% rate. With his big performance, Hendrickson will launch himself in a new open defensive player of the year race.
Yeah.
Here's
what's
asking
gonna
somebody to
happen.
get 3 sacks is ridiculous.
Take the under. Myles Garrett is going to make Joe Burrow miserable. Trey Hendrickson is going to make Deshaun Watson miserable. This game is going to be miserable. It will be unenjoyable. It'll be decided on some field goals. And the Bengals are going to win by 4, and the Browns are going to cover.
And
I
then
hope
the Guardians
this
are
game
going
is
to
so
go to the World
exciting.
Series.
I hope it's the most exciting
Watch it be
game
41-38
ever.
at
Yes.
half.
It's going to be a shootout.
There's
Texans at Packers.
safeties. There's all kinds of things happening. You
What
know.
does that idiot know?
Pretty good game at Lambeau Field. Texans at Packers. Packers are by 2.5. They're 4-2 on the year. Texans are 5-1. D'Amico Ryans said earlier this week that the Packers' Jordan Love, quote, will be the best quarterback we've seen this year. Love's strongest ability is in play action, and he has the second highest passer rating in those situations. As for the Packers, well, most of the focus last week was on the return of Romeo Doubs from a 1-game suspension. Packers' most consistent receiver has been Jaden Reed. Team high 27 catches on 34 targets this year, and his 79% reception rate, 7th best in the NFL. I think the Packers win at home. Use some play action with Jordan Love finding Jaden Reed, and now Romeo Doubs. I got the Pack.
Defensive end Will Anderson Jr.'s 5.5 sacks this season are the most by a Houston player through 6 games since J.J. Watt in 2018. I'm going with the Texans.
I'm going with the Mojo because San Diego Mojo's Ronica Stone is the girlfriend of
Jordan Love.
Jordan Love. So I'm going Mojo pick, Packers pick.
It could have been our beloved Texans.
Yeah.
Final 3. Bold predictions, Henry Tuatua will record 10-plus combined tackles. He
Is
ranks
that how you say that? Tua, not To'o?
It might be To'o. Tu'u. To'o.
T-O apostrophe O, T-O apostrophe O.
To'o.
I buy this.
To'o.
Ranks 14th out of 52 in tackle rate on run plays among off-ball linebackers. That's your deep dive stat.
Wow.
I'll buy it. Linebackers getting 10-plus
Sure.
tackles. Sounds good. Dolphins at Colts. Colts are favored by 3. Dolphins are 2-3. Colts are 3-3. No Jonathan Taylor, but Anthony Richardson is back for the Colts. Dolphins are hopeful that Devon Achane will be back.
Colts have been bad against the run. Miami's 12 points per game, 60 total points are the worst in NFL. It has scored fewer than 75 points in 6 straight games, only 3 times in franchise history. That is very bad. I'm taking the Colts.
I'll take the Colts.
I'm taking the Colts as well.
Josh Downs recorded a 4th straight game with 65 or more receiving yards. Buy or sell? I'll buy it.
Sell, just for fun.
I'm going to buy it.
Our beloved Lions at the Vikings.
Let's go!
4-1 Lions at the 5-0 Vikings.
I've been waiting all day for Sunday afternoon.
Sunday morning. It's a 10
Oh, yeah,
a.m.
Sunday.
game.
Yeah.
Been waiting all day for Sunday morning.
That's you watching the London game before this.
Me and Jake
6
Waters
a.m.
at
or whatever.
Parky's. Yeah, we're
That's
just gonna
right.
be posted up at Parky's watching this game.
Detroit's offense entered Minnesota on a roll under leadership of Jared Goff. Had a big win over the Cowboys last week. Stat to know, 8 career games against the Lions. Justin Jefferson has totaled 1,073 receiving yards, most by any player in his first 8 games versus an opponent in NFL history. I think the Lions going into Minnesota get an upset. I think they win outright.
Yeah,
me too. Absolutely.
I think they win as well.
They're
And I
gonna
think
win.
that they have a good running game, and I think they win.
Buy or sell Sam Darnold under a quarterback rating of 50, even without Aiden Hutchinson in the lineup. I could buy that. I think
I
if
could
the
buy
Lions
that.
win, Sam
Yeah.
Darnold's QBR needs to be under 50.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
Last game of the morning slate, and then we will finish. Eagles at the Giants. Giants are 2-4. Eagles are 3-2. Eagles are favored by 3. NFC East has not been very good. It is the Saquon Barkley game because Saquon's back in New York.
Returns to MetLife Stadium for the first time as an Eagle after 6 years as the marquee player for the Giants. I'm going Eagles, Braden.
I'm going Eagles as well. Giants' run defense has been a problem. 5.2 yards per carry. They're going against their former player that they didn't want to pay top dollar for. They let him walk. Signs the division rival. I think Saquon has a huge day.
Same here.
Concur.
Jalen
It's the
Hurts.
Barkley revenge game.
Buy or sell Giants. Daniel Jones will set season high for passing yards. I will buy that because I think they'll be down by so many points that it's just going to be a lot of trash time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Probably
Trash
buy
time
two then.
scoring.
Yeah.
Afternoon games, Raiders are at the Rams. Panthers are at the Commanders. Chiefs are at the Niners. Super Bowl rematch.
Yeah.
Should be a good one.
Well, there's the good game.
Jets at the Steelers. Ravens at the Bucks will be Monday night. Oh, is that Monday Night Football?
Sunday Night Football, isn't it?
It's on ESPN.
No, wait.
That's Monday Night
Oh,
Football.
yeah, that is
Sunday
Monday
Night
Night
Football
Football.
is Jets and Steelers. Are you
What?
kidding me? NBC. That's your.
You're not
I mean,
allowed
I know
to
the
flex,
Jets
right?
have the drama.
I don't think so.
You don't get to flex at the beginning of the year.
Jets? No, you can't. They probably thought that was going to be a way better. Aaron Rodgers. You have 2 Monday night games.
Why do they keep doing this?
Why are they playing at the exact same time?
That's
The
just
Ravens
dumb.
at the Bucks will play at 5:15, and then the Cardinals will host the Chargers at 5:45.
Yeah, that doesn't. Why are they doing that?
Why
I thought
are
that was
you
just like a
doing
one-off
it at
thing.
the same time? Why are you competing against yourself?
Right.
Here's what's even worse. Chargers and Cardinals are not even on television.
Okay, I was just about to bring this
They're
up.
on
Wait,
ESPN
what?
Plus. They've
It-
been going against it. It's ESPN Plus only.
This is an all-time first, right? ESPN
Yes.
Plus has never been an exclusive.
This is
Correct.
so they had
Post
to
before.
pay like top dollar
This
for
is
that,
part
or what?
of the new deal, right? Just like when NBC paid through the nose for their new deal, they got some games on Peacock.
So someone's going
Right.
to have to say, "Hey, I want to pay for Chargers Cardinals, so I'm going to subscribe to ESPN Plus."
Chargers are such a bottom-tier NFL organization that they're
In
like,
an alternate universe, us three are really upset right now.
yeah, but
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. an
We don't
alternate
live there.
universe, yes.
so I don't need to worry about that.
So now, ha!
Yeah.
We don't have to pay for
Enjoy
it.
your
even,
ESPN
right.
Plus game, guys.
even though most people already have kind
Probably,
of ESPN
but
Plus that are
whatever.
sports fans.
Yes.
I mean, I even pay for that.
Even cheapskate Braden
That's
pays
right.
for ESPN Plus.
I don't pay for any streaming, but I pay for ESPN Plus to watch college athletics. But you're going to go ESPN, ABC, Ravens at Bucks at 5:15, and then arguably a terrible matchup between the Chargers and the Cardinals is going to be on ESPN Plus only at 8:45. If you're going to do an ESPN Plus, here's it's a question for you streamer types. If you're going to go a broadcast on ESPN Plus, wouldn't you want to put that one starting earlier so people flip to that first?
Yeah.
Instead of having like, oh, the game's on TV. Yeah, I don't want to switch over to my.
It's basically hiding the game.
Yeah, they're hiding it.
We'll start it a half hour later so that everyone watches the first game
Yeah.
and gets into that game and then just watches. And then half an hour later, oh, by the way, these two lousy teams no one cares about is about to play. And no one watches except for,
And Ravens and Bucks
You know
is
who you
actually a
are.
pretty
They
good
hide in
game.
Los Angeles, anyways.
yeah. Yeah, they're pretty much hiding in L.A. anyway. Right. It's like the 13th most important team.
You guys can tell me how that game goes. Just like the London
I don't.
game.
You have
You can
ESPN
tell
Plus,
me.
dude. Yeah.
You can tell me.
Be coming home from coaching football.
I'll be aggressively not watching that
I'll
game.
be.
on
I'm
Monday
sure
night.
I got softball. I got to play. Yeah.
It's going to be a hard not watch.
Is it World Series next Monday? When does the World Series start?
Friday, I think, next week.
Oh, that we're pretty far off then.
Yeah.
So, okay.
We're in games like what 4 and
Yeah,
5
yeah,
now?
fine, you're right,
4,
yeah.
4,
Yeah.
5 and 4.
When we come back, we're a little late, but not too late. It's time to play Silly Games. Today's silly game is Fast Money. It is the bonus round from Family Feud. And up for grabs is a pair of tickets to see Parker McCollum at Cal Coast Credit Union Open Air Theater on October 25th. Limited tickets remain at Ticketmaster.com. We need 2 people on the line at 833-288-0973. First person who calls in gets to be the contestant to take on either Annie or I in Fast Money. Second person that calls in gets to be the avatar and sit there on hold and root for the host of the show. Because if the contestant wins, they get the tickets, but if the host wins, you get the tickets. 833-288-0973. Give us a call right now. If you get thrown on hold, don't hang up. Just stay there, and we'll be right back with Fast Money next on The Fan. This hour on 97.3 The Fans brought to you by Buffalo Wild Wings. Buffalo Wild Wings is football. Hey, San Diego sports fans, Buffalo Wild Wings is kicking off football season with 2 limited-time sauces. Try their new Buffalo Bacon Sauce for bold notes of smoky bacon, or get the fan favorite hot barbecue before it's gone. Stop by your local San Diego B-Dubs and order now, or get takeout and delivery with the app Buffalo Wild Wings Go. It's time for Silly Games. We're a little bit behind, so let's jump right into it and hear the bumper. Got a pair of tickets up for grabs to see Parker McCollum at Cal Coast Credit Union Open Air Theater on October 25th. Hey, that's a week from tonight. Limited tickets remain
How
at
about it?
Ticketmaster.
On the Road Greg will be hosting
That's
right.
right.
a week from tonight.
Absolutely. And today we have online Tyler in San Marcos as today's contestant. Hi, Tyler. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. What's going on?
Oh, we're playing Silly Games, and we're glad to have you here. Tell us a little bit about yourself before we play.
Yeah, from North County, born and raised, and still feeling a little bit hurt about my Padres losing.
I feel it, man. I
Yep.
feel it. I know. Well, we get to take your mind off it here. This is Fast Money. It is the bonus round from the game show Family Feud. So it's very simple, Tyler. Here's how it's going to work. It's going to start with a decision from yourself. You can take on Craig or Annie in the game. The host you pick will leave the studio. Then our resident, Steve Harvey, is Braden Soprenant. He is standing by with questions that he polled a recent studio audience. You're going to be looking for the most popular answer to each of the 5 questions. Host will return, not knowing your answers, but being unable to repeat them. And then we'll add up the scores at the end. And if you win, you're going to be going to the concert. But Tyler, if the host wins, Juan in Vista will instead be going to the concert. Juan is today's avatar waiting on hold. Hi, Juan. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
You can just chill there, man. Just
Sit
hang
back
out
and
there,
relax and enjoy the show.
Root for the host. It's the easiest gig in radio game shows. So
Awesome.
good luck to you. But Tyler, we're back to you now, my friend. You have a choice. Do you want to play Craig or Annie?
Let's let Juan root for Annie.
All
Okay,
right.
Tyler, I'm leaving the room. Good luck to you.
Annie is out of
Thank
here.
you.
Juan now knows who he's going to root for. He's cheering for Annie. And Braden is ready with your questions. Good luck, Tyler.
1 minute on the clock. If you get stumped, you can say pass. We have time at the end of it. 1 minute will start after I ask you this first question. Name the most annoying thing other drivers do on the road.
No blinker.
Ah, that's annoying.
That is a good one.
Name an appliance found in every home.
Dishwasher.
Dishwasher.
Okay.
Name something that makes people blink.
Pass.
Name something teenagers do to make spending money.
To make spending money?
That's what it says. To make some spending money.
Okay.
Take out the trash.
Take out the trash.
Good.
That's more to get not yelled at by mom. Name the sport that has the best looking men.
European soccer.
European soccer. Name something that makes people blink. Need an answer.
Sneezing.
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 Great answer.
Good.
You literally can't help but blink if you sneeze. All right. Great job, Tyler. Annie never realizes how fast this is.
A minute is very fast.
It's really fast.
And we even go over sometimes.
I know.
Just to help people out.
Here she comes.
All
All
right.
right.
1 minute on the clock, Annie. Are you ready?
I'm not ready. I'm not ready. I'm ready.
All right.
Okay.
You sure about that?
Yep.
How do you feel about
I
that?
feel ready. As
All right.
ready as I could be.
Name the most annoying thing other drivers do on the road.
Cut you off.
Cut you off. I agree. Name an appliance found in every home.
Refrigerator.
Fridge. Name something that makes people blink.
The sun.
Sun. Name something teenagers do to make spending money.
These days, or what teenagers do to make spending money? They have a job.
job.
Okay.
J-O-B.
Right?
That-
Or they ask their
that's-
parents? I don't know. They
Get
have
a
a job.
J-O-B, son.
Name the sport that has the best looking men.
Oh my God. Really?
That is
We're-
the actual question.
That's what the question was.
Tyler answered it.
He did.
Yeah. The sport with the best looking guys.
Oh, the sport with the best looking guys. Well, since we cover baseball, I'm going to go with baseball.
Very good.
All
Okay.
right. Good answer.
All right, here we go. Time to compare and see whether Tyler or Juan gets the tickets.
Name the most annoying thing other drivers do on the road. No blinker.
That's what Tyler said.
Oh.
Number one answer.
Really?
31 points. No
Wow.
signal when changing lanes.
All right. Annie said, cut you off.
Number two answer. 30 points.
Oh, we got a
We're
one-point game.
neck and neck here to get things started.
Okay.
Question number two. Name an appliance found in every home.
Tyler said dishwasher.
Dishwasher. 4 points.
Okay.
Annie said
Refrigerator.
32 points. Number one answer.
Whoa, 62 to 35. Annie leads.
Okay.
Name something that makes people blink. Sneezing.
Tyler said
Yes,
sneezing.
Tyler,
Sorry, that
that's
was
a good
my
answer.
spot. That was my cue. Sorry, Braden. Sneezing.
What? What?
0.
It's literally true. So sorry,
Tyler, that was a good answer.
It was.
Just not a good audience.
Annie said sun.
Sun. Bright light.
Yeah.
49 points. Number one
What?
answer.
I shouldn't have said yeah.
He said yeah.
It was a bright light. I mean, the sun's a bright light.
It's
by
a bright light.
definition.
It's the brightest light you could potentially have.
112,
bright light,
111 to 35.
Name something teenagers do to make spending money.
Tyler said take out the trash.
Household chores.
Good answer.
7.
7?
Worst answer.
Annie said get a J-O-B, son.
Number one answer. 38 points. Work a part-time job.
Wow.
This is
Okay.
this is
Okay,
a
here's his chance
Score
for a
is big
comeback.
to little.
Yes.
ass kicking right now. Name the sport that is the best looking men.
He said NFL, didn't he?
No.
Oh.
He said European
He
soccer.
said European
Oh.
soccer, son.
4 points.
4 big points.
Tyler.
Annie said
Baseball.
baseball. 19 points.
Okay.
Number two answer. Number one answer was football.
Yeah.
Was football? You can't even
They
see their
just
faces.
don't want to offend anyone
I
in
know.
baseball.
Can't
but,
even see their faces.
yeah.
Football was 1, baseball was 2, tennis 3, basketball 4, soccer, bodybuilding, wrestling, golf was last.
Wow.
Chris B says water polo.
I would have
So
said.
I could see that.
Yeah. I probably would have said
Blonde hair and
NBA.
Yeah, like. And yeah, NBA.
It just depends on your point of
Honestly,
view.
It also probably depends on like what kind of men you like. You know what I mean? Like what's like,
Exactly.
you know, like what's your, clean cut? Is
Well,
it
guess
like,
what, Juan? You
Oh.
did absolutely
mean, like,
nothing, and you win.
oh God.
Good job, Juan.
Annie's success is your success, Juan. Congratulations. Stay right there. Tyler, you did very fine. No problems at all. Give us a call to play another silly game. But today was not your day. Today was Juan's day because today was Annie's day. We come back and hit reset on the show right after this. Stay tuned, friends. It's Annie and Elsten on the Fan. Final hour of our work week. Hope your work week went well. It's Annie and Elsten, your midday hang here on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Annie Heilbrunn, Craig Elsten, Braden Soprenet, together in our Odyssey studios. Braden, how is Clock Integrity Friday going
Swimmingly.
so far?
Swimmingly. I don't know if we've ever started at 106.
I don't think we ever started a silly game at 53 before either, but
That's right.
that's what we did.
Well, it's Friday.
It is Friday. It's ruined the Clock Friday.
Clock
as it
Integrity
turned out.
Monday is going to go better than a Clock Integrity Friday.
I think you're right. I think you're
know?
right. I think more integrity exists on
On
Monday.
a Monday, right, yeah.
Friday, integrity's
It's out
out
the
the
window.
window. Just gone.
Just like everybody's work integrity.
Yeah.
We're just matching the vibes that you have at your office right now.
That's a great point.
It's a free-for-all.
Well, we are here together with you till 2 o'clock. Gwen and Chris will check in from 2 to 6. Matt Scraby will be all by himself in this great big building from 6 to 7
Cratchit.
with the Scraby Show.
Cratchit show.
He'll just be here scrawling.
He's already here, too. He's doing his notes, doing his work.
Yeah, they actually turn off all the lights. He has a couple candles that he's brought along with him just to
That's-
make sure he can see his way out.
Honestly, not false.
Yeah, they
I'm
will.
serious. Like, the lights in this place go out when people aren't walking around. And
It
if you're
is
in a
funny.
studio, it's pitch black in here.
And on Fridays especially, the lights are basically off all over because a lot of times you're the only show in here.
Right.
Yeah, so
I've worked many of night shifts at the station where I'm the only person in this building, and it's pitch black, and then lights flick on. You're like, who's here?
Coming up shortly, we will hear in our next segment from our dear friend Media Melanie with our weekly Crossing Streams television streaming recommendation.
who's already in the chat, and I understandably, because that was kind of a difficult question for me to answer, but the chat has taken off with it of the best looking men in sports. And so yeah, there's a lot of opinions in there, which you would imagine.
I Need Money is killing me.
Not bad. Check that out if you haven't. By the way, we didn't mention it. I mean, we need to mention it all the time, but we are a YouTube show. We aren't just a radio show. We're a YouTube show. We're on video every single minute of every hour of our existence here in Odyssey. So find us on YouTube on the 97.3 The Fan page. And while you're there, everyone who's there in the chat right now, thank you so much. If you haven't hit the like button yet, please smash that like button. If you haven't subscribed yet to 97.3 The Fan's content on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. If you need to be notified, click the little bell for notifications. Those are the things you can do to help the station, help the show, help the broadcasts. And we appreciate you, however, wherever, whenever you're listening, even those folks listening to us a day or two in advance on the podcast. Maybe listening while you are mowing the lawn on the weekend. Welcome to that one person that I actually hit the arrow with that is mowing the lawn, listening to our podcast right now.
Shout out to you.
Shout out. Okay, real quick here. Real quick. We never do anything real quick here. Who am I kidding? AJ Cassavell just came out with his latest Padres Beat
Okay, AJ.
newsletter. And this is the kind of thing that I'm sure all the other stations are going to bandy, and all the other shows, are going to bandy about. So let's do it now before it's old, because it's a Friday newsletter. So he wrote the 5 biggest questions facing the Padres this winter.
Love those.
5 biggest questions. Yeah, a listicle is what these are called, right? Listicles, where you an article that has a list.
I prefer
Within it?
listicles. Get to the nitty gritty. Let's get to it.
All right. So his number one question for the Padres going into the winter of 2024 is, will Jurickson Profar be back? Would you agree that that's the number one question facing the Padres?
It's hard for me to rank the questions, but I think it's a top priority question, so I'll give him that.
I think it'd be any of the. I think you could rope all the free agents into the same thing.
I tend to agree. I guess it doesn't really
I
matter.
think you could
I guess
talk
it
about Kim, Profar, and Scott.
He's hitting on the right. I mean, a lot of people are asking themselves whether Jurickson Profar will be back or not.
Well, and here's the reason why I would agree that with this being a very loose ranking that has very little distance between 1 and 5 in terms of importance, understanding that context, I think maybe you put Profar 1, and here's the reason why. Because he has the most confounding case of almost any player in big league baseball. You're talking about a guy who is beyond but not very far beyond, but nonetheless on the other side of his peak years. Right now he's in his early 30s. That's where you start to get lower contracts because you don't have perceived upside in the remainder of your career. He's also coming off the best season of his career, but it's the best season of his career by far. It's so much the best season of his career that very similarly to 2023, there could be teams out there going, yeah, that was a great year, but do I really want to pay for the year you just had as opposed to the 3 or 4 years I think you might have going forward? All of that means that Jurickson isn't guaranteed a gigantic payday on the free agent market. However, he is guaranteed to make more than $1 million
Oh, yeah.
with incentives.
He hit every incentive that he was able to him or open to him in 2024. So he hit his max salary, which was $2.5 million. But, I mean, came in on $1 million contract, knew that the Padres were looking at him as not a starter for the 2024 season, but someone that was basically just going to fill the gap until they found someone else. And he went out and he had the year that he did and made that decision for them in terms of keeping him. The question about him, similar to talking to Ben Clemens about Luis Arraez, and it'll be interesting to kind of see how other, places value what he has and everything. But he's a good fit with the Padres. I personally think he's unlocked something that he will be able to take to future years. I don't know if he'll have a career year, if he'll break it every time, but I think that he has unlocked something that is going to travel with him to another year. He does have, though, like a knee that he plays on injured that other teams are going to know about, right? So how does that affect his value as well? He told AJ Cassavell on Friday night that he said, I'm a free agent. I want to be here, though. This team, I think they have all the things to win a World Series. Mike Schilt built a beautiful thing here. Hopefully I'm part of it. And he also said later to AJ, he said, I want to win a World Series for San Diego, but free agency is, you never know. I've learned that the last 2 years. So this is a guy who went out, saw the market, had a difficult time. His family wants to be here in San Diego, but how much of a discount that amounts to, I don't know, because I don't even know what his number is out there.
That's the whole real thing to me is the Padres. I feel like the Padres are going to do this, and I don't know. This is not reporting. This is conjecture. Okay. I feel like the Padres are obligated to present Jurickson Profar this offseason with a contract of around 3 years, could be 2+1, it could be 3+1, at a deal point that is favorable to San Diego. So,
but also to being a starter.
Right. So like, for example, I'm just spitballing. I'm completely spitballing. But something like 3 years, $27 million. 2 years with an option. 2 years with an option.
Maybe some incentives.
Maybe a little bit front-loaded in terms of money, so you're getting the money. You get 15 this year, something like that, but somewhere around a $9 million average annual value for a contract. That is both a significant raise over what he's had, and it is also below the number that just the metrics would say for a person who generated the WAR that he did, 4.3, to go out on the market. That would usually be worth over $20 million in a season. So the thing is there a team that's willing to pay him that? Because if the Padres came to Jurickson with this completely hypothetical scenario, right? Jurickson, we love you. We think you should be here. We want you to be our starter in left field. Here's a 3-year contract. It's going to help us be competitive as a team because we're going to be able to continue to build around you, but you deserve a raise. Here it is, 3 years, $27 million. What do you think? And if Jurickson looks at his agent, talks to his family, and the agent goes, listen, man, I already know Team X is waiting out there with a 4-year, $70 million deal for you, then Jurickson will turn that deal down. Or the agent might say, hey, listen, I don't have a firm offer yet, but, I've been scouting around. I think some teams are going to be interested. I think some teams would like to meet with you. Well, at that point, again, Profar would have to turn the deal down, explore free agency, at which point I would get to part B, Annie, which is if a team offers him market, I don't think the Padres can match that and overpay to keep Jurickson.
Yeah, and I also think somewhere in the 9 to 10 range is a good salary, or somewhere that allows for 8 to 10 or something with incentives, or an extra year or something, depending on, an option or whatnot. I think you could do something with that. For Jurickson, he left Scott Boras the year after that went south, and he signed with the Rockies. He is now with MVP Sports, which is the same one as Luis Arraez, Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis Jr. This guy that has worked out deals with the Padres before.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Doesn't mean that they're going to do it this time, but I do think there's a mutual interest. The hard part with last time too was Boras. There was a plan in place last time, from my understanding, where it was like test the market or whatever, and then maybe we'll still be able to work something out, and you can come back. Well, by the time that came to fruition, whether that was Boras wanting more money, or whether that was, the Padres deciding they were just moving on to something else,
right,
for whatever reason, I don't know exactly. That can be a dangerous strategy sometimes, because they both might move on. You've got two guys here with AJ Preller and with Jurickson Profar and his family they've known Jurickson since he was 16 years old. He's known AJ since he was 16 years old. They have a relationship. I think that they will try to act in the best interest of each other a little bit, in terms of like a good faith thing. But I'm with you. If Jurickson knows that he can go out there and he can get, if they offer him a very low offer, or he knows he can go out there and probably get 2 or 3 years from another team at a higher rate of money, he's got to go. He owes that to himself probably to go explore that.
Yeah, I think he does as well. I think he owes that to himself. He doesn't owe San Diego anything. However, he does exhibit loyalty to the franchise.
He wants to be here.
Right, exactly.
For sure.
He loves the players he's with, and I think there's no question that Jurickson fits here better than he fits almost anywhere else. But with that said, and as we get ready to go to break, the proviso on that is the biggest reason that Jurickson fit the best he did this year is because he was the biggest bargain in baseball. When you pay him, quote unquote, what he's worth, that's money you can't pay to improve the team somewhere else. You're not a better team bringing Jurickson back in 2025. You're the same team bringing Jurickson back in 2025 because he was already here.
But if he has that kind of year and he's getting paid for that value, then it's fine, right? I mean, you can't. You got to. If he continues to produce and he's just getting paid for it, like, you're still happy with the production.
You are, but and listen, in a world where we're going to spend over the cap, I don't care, right? In a world where we're going to spend over the cap, give everyone their money, give everyone their flowers. But if we're really going to try not to do that, then things like paying 10x for your left fielder for the same production, those are the kind of things that hurt you down the road, as a general principle, right? Jurickson is a specific case that is easier to swallow, but at market rate, Profar is a tough investment because you have a hard time being able to guarantee that you're going to match that production that the market rate is demanding. And similarly, you're looking at his age 32, 33, 34 seasons. Those are years that generally you expect a player to start to decline a little bit. So it's amidst many tricky, complicated, kind of almost torturous decisions. Maybe I agree with AJ. I think that's number one. It's just there's so much nuance. If Profar leaves, we're all going to be really sad.
There is something, too, also to Profar that just the team got better when he moved from the Rockies to the Padres in 2023. The team was better with him this year. Every year that they've gone to the postseason before, he's been on the team. There is something about Jurickson Profar that just is not to mention the production this year, obviously, that speaks for itself, but there is an intangible that I don't know how extra you pay for, but that I think you want to have if you can have it.
Yeah, well, I agree. And it's a tricky one. If you want to read the rest of AJ's 5 biggest questions, you can sign up for his newsletter on MLB.com, and it is free.
I need to figure this out in the break.
What?
Either his newsletters are going to my spam, or I'm sure what's happening here, so I need to look for this.
To subscribe to Padres Beat, visit this page, MLB.com/fan/newsletter/beat-reporter. I'm not gonna share that.
Okay.
But there's a newsletters. If you go to the newsletters tab on MLB.com, you can find it for
Perfect,
every
yes.
team. And if you click on the Padres one, you will get AJ's Padres Beat in your inbox whenever he writes it. When we come back, Media Melanie, Crossing Streams, and a feel-good TV streaming recommendation for you. That plus Ask Us Anything before 2 o'clock on The Fan. 126 is the time. Media Melanie's on hold. I just want really quick, Shota in the chat as we talk about, AJ's column and the 5 biggest questions facing the Padres, and he ranked number 1 is Jerks and Profar coming back. Shota actually nails it. The number 1 question facing the Padres this offseason, how much are the Padres willing to spend? That's the number 1 question. How much are they willing to spend? Because a world in which they're willing to spend, the field's wide open for you in terms of how you could improve this team, how dynamic you want to be, what you want to do with the rotation, what you want to do with extensions, et cetera, et cetera. If the team is unwilling to go over the apron and go into the luxury tax, well, now this is an incredibly complicated offseason filled with difficult decisions, filled with guys you might need to trade in order to facilitate the raises that are pre-baked into existing contracts. Guys you might be having to let go, even though they do agree to a free agent deal that's around the price point that you'd agree upon. It's a very, very different offseason if the Padres are penurious, but if the Padres are prolific in their spending instead, it's a wide open offseason. So to me, that's question 1, and then every other question is a subset of that.
Yeah, 1,000%. I mean, we'll talk all offseason about what they can do and what they might do and what they should do in our opinions anyways, or all of that good stuff, but we don't know what their actual financials look like, and we don't know how willing they are to go above it, or what kind of structure that they need to do, or they feel that they might need to do inside that building to stay within it, or so there's going to be a lot of questions. And then how creative might they get with some of those structures that they are inside of, right? So I don't think it's as simple as like run it back.
Yeah, no, it's not that easy. With that, let's turn our attention now. It is the weekend. It's been a rough week for being a San Diego sports fan. Folks listening to San Diego Sports Talk Radio, you are directly in the subset of people who probably had a little bit more miserable week than you would have otherwise because the Padres didn't get to the desired destination. Here is our dear friend, Media Melanie, joining us for our weekly Friday Crossing Streams segment to come along with hopefully something to lift our spirits. Melanie, good afternoon to you.
Hey, Craig. Hey, Annie. How's it going?
Going very well, thank you. It is great to have you here. What do you got for us today? What as you sent to me, you're going to give us a little lift, little pick-me-up here. What you got for us?
That's right. I thought we could all use it, Craig. So I'm taking a little break from my dark and spooky season picks to dive into this delightful fall pick-me-up called Nobody Wants This, and it is on Netflix.
Okay.
It stars Kristen Bell as Joanne and the very charming and handsome Adam Brody as Noah. And while it is a rom-com, it leans very hard into the comedy. The story follows Joanne, who is a single agnostic sex podcaster, and Noah, a rabbi who is fresh out of a breakup. They cross paths at a mutual friend's dinner party, and this launches them into a hilariously complicated dating situation, all while they're navigating Noah's quirky family, who are not exactly rolling out a welcome mat for a shiksa. This series has some serious will they, won't they tension. It's got so many relatable comedic moments. I was laughing out loud during every episode. And Kristen Bell and Adam Brody just have such a natural chemistry. I feel like they might be my new favorite TV couple. And the other cast is also a dream team. We've got Timothy Simons, who you may know as Jonah from Veep. He plays Noah's brother. And Justine Lupe, Willa from Succession, is Joanne's sister. And their on-screen dynamics are also off the charts. I felt so invested in these characters and their wild antics. And strong writing, chef's kiss to the writers of this show. And like I said, there's so many comedic moments. One little example, Noah, Adam Brody's character, plays on a basketball team. It's called the Matzo Ballers, and I just died every single time I saw that jersey. I thought it was so funny. And, it's tough, Craig, these days to find good comedies. But lately, we've had The English Teacher on Hulu. Shrinking Season 2 is back, which brings laughs in a drama type of package. And now we've got Nobody Wants This. So I'm feeling hopeful for the comedy genre because seriously, we've got shows such as The Bear up for comedies, and that show is just not a comedy. So Season 1 of Nobody Wants This has 10 episodes. They are a breezy 30 minutes each, and this is really great for a cozy Netflix and chill night or just if you need a laugh. And the best part is it's already been renewed for a second season. And you know what? This might go on my list of top 10 shows of the year, Craig.
Oh, wow.
So we'll see where it ends up. But I mean, I'm telling you, this one is just, it's so funny. It's got something for everyone. So highly recommend.
What is the name again?
Nobody Wants This.
Oh, I love it, Melanie. That's awesome.
Nobody wants
Yeah.
this. And
Annie,
yeah.
I
Go ahead.
think you'll love this one, Annie, too. It's like right up your alley. It's just so feel good. And like
Yes.
I said, I feel like after this last week, we all need some laughs in our lives, right?
Good off-season programming. Yes. Love it.
Okay, so Melanie, I took you up on your show last week. And my wife has now twice over the weekend and then last night when I watched the next 2 installments said, "What the heck are you watching? You watch the weirdest stuff. Why do you watch weird stuff on the TV?" I am referring to Teacup on Peacock,
Yes.
which I have now watched all 4 available episodes. That show is really weird. I don't dislike it. I came back and I watched the next 2 episodes. So they've
I think the last couple were a little bit slow, but Scott Speedman has said that once you get to episode 5, things really pick up again. So I'm really looking forward to that. So
Yes.
I see what you're saying about it, though. Totally.
Yes, there was a lot of throat clearing and a lot of moving the pieces on the checkerboard in episodes 3 and 4. That just kind of
Yeah,
like
maybe too many new characters too, right? I mean, they
Yeah.
introduced, more people than they can fit into a 30-minute show, I think, is part of that.
yeah.
issue.
All of a sudden, we've got the gas mask gang now, and I don't know what they're all about. But yeah, no spoilers. But so far, I have found it to be weird and modestly compelling. But I am sticking around to figure out the mystery. And Yvonne Strahovski, am I saying that right?
Yes, you are.
Yeah,
yes.
she has just been given the best role that she could get, like heroic mom, incredibly calm in difficult situations, veterinarian, so she loves animals, kind eyes, good mother. Like she's just been given like the ultimate alpha role in this show.
Yeah, she is fantastic. And of course, she's in Dexter and The Handmaid's Tale, so she brings it no matter what show she goes to.
All right, mine for you and for the audience. As you know, I love reality competition. I'm a particular, I don't know why, but I am to the CBS shows. I watch Survivor, I watch Big Brother. I always loved The Amazing Race. The Amazing Race is at least on hiatus now. I don't know if it's canceled, but it's at least on hiatus, and it's been replaced by The Summit, which aired its 3rd episode on Wednesday. Have you seen or heard anything about The Summit, Media Melanie?
Craig, this is news to me, so please fill me in. What's going on with The Summit?
All right. I have watched the 3 episodes so far available, and I am very much willing and happy to recommend The Summit for reality competition. This is 16 Americans that are, as usual, right? A reality competition field. You've got a range of ages, you've got a range of physiques, you've got a range of, jobs and skill sets, etc. And these 16 people have been flown to New Zealand, where they walk out into a field. They don't know what's going on. And they meet the New Zealand host, who is a very rugged, very handsome, dark, tall, and handsome man named Manu Bennett, who then comes out and explains to them that they have 14 days to get to the summit of this peak in New Zealand, this very high mountain. And they have to climb up as a group, and they are all going to be carrying in their backpacks, along with their clothes and provisions, they're going to be carrying their share of $1 million. So 16 people have got literally $1 million in cash that are spread out into plastic bags and put into their backpacks. And as they are going forward, they have 14 days to get to the top. If they don't get to the top in 14 days, no one makes $1. Everyone loses. They don't make anything. Along the way, they hit checkpoints. At checkpoints, they have an opportunity to vote somebody out of the group. When they vote them out of the group, they get to steal the money out of their backpack and redistribute it into everybody else's backpack. So the money stays in the game. Or somebody can tap out. They get injured. They twist an ankle. They can't handle the altitude, and they can be helicoptered off of the mountain, at which point they lose the money that are in that backpack. And along the way, they're presented with a series of devil's bargains. In terms of like, you can cut this player and gain an advantage, or you can keep everybody, but you might not make the camp. And if you don't make the camp, you're sleeping out in the cold and you don't get any food. So I have found it to be enjoyable. I like climbing shows already in terms of like Everest shows and whatnot. So you've got that aspect combined with competition. Now you've got the group talking amongst themselves. Who do we want to cut next? Who's a threat? Who's this? Who's that? Alliances are being formed, but they all have to perform this extremely physical task along the way. So while I have always loved The Amazing Race, the Summit is its current replacement, and I have found it to be quite enjoyable and compelling so far.
Oh, that sounds physically and mentally arduous, Craig. I might have to check that out. I, too, am an Amazing Race fan, so this sounds like it could be a reasonable replacement, for now at least.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't ever want to see Amazing Race go away. It's one of the most expensive shows on television, The Amazing Race. I mean, by nature, right? You're flying from city to city to city. The crew is flying as well. There's so much involved. So I know that's one of those shows that is always kind of lived on the edge of its price point to the network. So with that, all right, from Media Melanie, we've got Nobody Wants This on Netflix. From Craig, we've got The Summit on CBS, also on Paramount Plus. And Media Melanie, tell everybody where they can follow you and your content all week long.
Yes, you can follow me at Media Melanie on the socials and subscribe to my YouTube channel at MediaMelanieTV.com.
Thank you so much, my friend. When we come back, it's time for Ask Us Anything. That's how we're going to wrap up the show and how we're going to wrap up the week. We're going to open up the lines right now, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. You've got a solid 12 minutes to call the show between now and 1:50 p.m. If you call us, we'll put you on hold. If you call and you just get thrown on hold during the break, don't hang up. Stay right there. And when we get back, we'll put you on the air. All that we ask of you when you call in is to be ready with a question to ask the show. It doesn't have to be about sports. It can be about anything. Annie and Elsten wrapping things up after this on The Fan. Little relaxation, get you in the mood for the weekend. Tribe Called Quest. It's Annie and Elsten here with you. Last segment of the week. We get the weekend off. Wouldn't have. Wish we wouldn't have. Well, I would have been in with. We would probably been doing a weekend show tomorrow, Braden.
Yeah, absolutely. Sigh.
By next week, maybe I'll be over it. Maybe.
You won't be until the end of the World Series.
I won't be till maybe forever.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, no.
I mean, come on. Dramatic sports losses stay with you the rest of your life.
It's true.
Dramatic sports wins will fade. Like some of the best ones you'll forget over time. And then someone will bring it up and go, oh, yeah, that was awesome. I forgot. You never forget the losses.
I agree from a coaching perspective. I remember all the losses I've ever been a part of. And like some of the wins, we've had some pretty good wins.
Yeah, the losses sting. And
I
stay
don't
with
remember
you.
them as well.
It'll always be part of, obviously, the Padres' story of 2024. You know, especially, you know, the regular season that they had and how magical it was, how wonderful it was, and being able to have a second half that was as dynamic as they did.
Lost to the Cinderella story.
Yeah.
2024 Los Angeles Dodgers.
Yeah,
True
exactly.
underdog story.
Lost
True
to the
American.
underdogs.
Oh, I wonder if the
Underdog.
slipper will fall or if the billion-dollar
know.
team will continue. I don't know. Yeah, it's a great question.
Like, what does Pete Alonso's pumpkin turn into at midnight?
Cinderella. It just turns. All of a sudden, it's just a miniature princess running around going, hey, go Yankees.
Is it like a extra player? Is it a home run? Is it right? If you won, no, that's football. The football team goes to
think
Super Bowl champion goes to Disneyland, right? It's not baseball team.
I mean, you
doesn't
could.
do it.
I think they
I'm
all
sure.
do.
Do they all
I
do
think
that?
They all go to
I think
Disneyland.
Disney pays for that.
You could bring your pumpkin to that, I guess.
Sure.
You know.
Drop it off in a display next to Goofy.
Well, it'd be kind of. Don't they go to Christmas immediately after Halloween at those places?
I think they still do the half
Yeah.
Halloween, half Christmas for the Haunted Mansion. They do like the Nightmare Before Christmas bit into
They do that October, November, and December.
right. So you could drop it off there, I guess.
Hot take. I think that's lame.
It is not.
I think
Brayden,
it's lame. I think it's lame. I think the Nightmare Before Christmas Haunted Mansion is eyewash.
It is cool.
Eyewash.
It's
Eyewash.
not. It's
That is
like
my hot take of the day.
all the Jeff Skellington. and-
Eyewash. The regular one is better.
Well, the regular one
Hot
is
take.
amazing, but
That's
like
right.
the holiday one is like
I'm gonna tell you right now. When I
It's
go to,
just
if I
different.
get
It's
invited to
cool.
go to Disneyland, which has
Skipping
happened a
it?
couple of times, and it's in like October, I immediately go, "Damn it! Haunted Mansion is not the
my
original
God.
Haunted Mansion. I got to do with Jack Skellington. I don't even hate Jack Skellington. I'm just saying, hot take.
it's perfectly done for the holidays.
But for 3 months,
Yes, it's Halloween
if you want
and
to do it during
Christmas.
Christmas, fine. That makes sense to me. Nightmare Before Christmas. Do it during Christmas time.
But it's Halloween
During Halloween,
town.
it's like no. It should be Halloween, not Christmas.
This
It's
is
over.
Halloween. Yeah,
This
it's the premise of it is
Too
Halloween.
much. It's
like,
too much.
into Christmas.
It's too much.
Halloween.
3
I
months
agree
of that
with
is
you that the regular
ridiculous.
Haunted Mansion is the best.
It's better.
But it's a themed Haunted Mansion. Like it
But
makes
you don't
sense
need
to
it
me
for
during the
3
holidays.
months. You don't need it for 3 months. Pick one. If you want to do October, great. If you want to do December, great. Don't do all 3 months during the holiday season.
That's
It's too much.
Halloween to December.
It's
Tyler in the chat, put some
ridiculous.
respect on the Pumpkin King's name. Exactly.
It's
all
Jack
right?
I'm not
Skellington,
going
not
to.
Jack
Skellington.
Skellington.
I think it's overused, and I think that's my hot take. I
This
told you
is
that.
It was. It
That's
is
a
a
hot
hot
take.
take.
This is Halloween.
I think it's overrated. I think it's overrated, like a Cane's chicken finger. I think it's overrated.
Fair enough. You know, I told you my son agrees with you about Canes.
He probably doesn't agree
And
on
he
it.
hates
Probably
the
not
Haunted
about-
Mansion, so he probably
I
agrees with
love
you
the Haunted
He
already.
probably
Mansion.
likes the Nightmare Before Christmas.
You know, by the way, I've got a bone to pick with my son, who is not listening because he's at school. But when we went to, I told you guys this, when we went to Disneyland last year, he objected to going into the Haunted Mansion, did so reluctantly, then claimed that night that he couldn't sleep because he was scared about the Haunted Mansion. I'm here to tell you that I have seen some of the anime that this kid is watching.
It's nothing like the Haunted
And
Mansion.
it's
It's way more advanced. than the Haunted
7
Mansion.
billion times scarier.
Then the guy jumping, the little fake ghost jumping into your
right?
your trolley as you're leaving.
Yeah, he was literally telling me yesterday, well, yeah, on this show, the thing is, at the end, if you don't do this, then the other person eats you. And so they have he eats you? You're scared of the ghost at Haunted Mansion? He goes, no, it's fine. No, this is fine. I'm not scared. So I don't get it. Let's play the bumper. We've got some people on hold. Let's play the bumper.
Please call with your Jack Skellington takes.
They started it on July 29th this year. Are you kidding me?
Okay, that's crazy. Fine, I will give you that. That's crazy. Start it in end of September, October 1st. Fine.
It says on July 25th, 2024, Disneyland announced that the Haunted Mansion Holiday will be reopened early on July 29th.
Probably because it's such a
2024,
hit.
To start
Because
the
everyone
Halloween
except
season.
you loves
For
it.
6 months of the
I
year,
like
I
the
guess.
traditional stuff. Stop messing with it. If
You know that Disneyland.
if you make it every day, it's no longer special.
Yeah, I know. I get that. Like 6 months of the year now.
It's like, come on.
You know that Disneyland made a fast pass for $400 a ticket. Like you get,
What?
yeah, like you get to the front of the line, but it's $400.
Which
I'm
one?
assuming it's like for a year. I hope it's for a year. It's
I
like
would
their
hope
new
so.
fast pass that gets you to the front of like all the major.
I don't need to do that. The genie,
Just do the
$20
genie.
thing
The
is
genie's
fine.
cool. $25. No big
Yeah,
deal.
cool. Although I do miss putting your ticket in the little thing, getting your little fast
It's called
pass
the
ticket.
Lightning
That was fun.
Lane Premier Pass. It's $400
When I was a boy, you got a book
a
of
day.
tickets.
It's
right, I was waiting for
$400 a day.
I was waiting for
They
Craig
said
to say
A,
that.
B, C, D,
Oh,
and
my
E.
God, I was waiting
it's
for
an
that.
E
Here we
ticket
go.
ride.
Here we go.
Let's go on Space Mountain. That's an E ticket ride.
Oh, here we go. Just take a guy.
That's when also the TVs were in black and white. And
No, I had color.
Old man Craig over here. Back
Most
in my
of the
day,
time it was color.
it's
Pepperidge
400
Farms remembers Craig going to Disneyland as a kid.
It's $400 a day.
Utopia like
day.
that. That's ridiculous.
What's
Yeah.
$400 a day?
The lightning
That you get to the front of everything.
fast
That is
lane.
not worth it at all. Disney is printing money. They're
Yes,
printing
they are printing money. Here's Johnny in Forest Ridge. Hi, Johnny. Ask us anything.
Hi, good afternoon, and
Which
happy
show would
Friday
I
again
call?
to Andy, Braden, and Greg.
Hello.
Welcome.
My question pertains to, it was an earlier segment that you guys did, and I've actually wanted to ask this for a while, but I think now is the most appropriate since it was brought up, and I think Craig probably will have the most to say about this since he watches European football. But do you think that if for some reason they went to a playoff structure, or not a playoff structure, but a trophy structure like they do in European football, do you think that would be interesting in baseball at all, where, like the old days, they would have the league winners meet in the World Series,
Mm-hmm.
and then maybe you can play a playoff-type
Like a
tournament
Champions
during the year,
League,
'cause it
something
is a
like
long
that?
season.
Like a Champions League? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, even that's even better if they could do Champions League and play against maybe NTB or KBO or LMB, the other leagues.
You know, Johnny, we actually we talked very abstractly about this the other day, basically in terms of what it's not. But hey, if worldwide baseball could advance to the point that you could have a Champions League and play the Japanese champion and the Cuban champion and the Korean champion and the Mexican champion, I'd be all for it. I think it'd be amazing.
I'd be all for it for all sports if all the sports can get up to soccer where it's like that all across the world.
Yeah. Build a sport. It's the single best thing about soccer. It's the single best thing about soccer. Soccer's worldwide. You can create these international competitions. You know, like we talked about with Wave yesterday, right? The Wave had a chance to be to go beyond domestic, to have that moment.
Play like 3 leagues at once and tournaments at once.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that stuff's fun.
It really is fun. Like, well, what are we focusing on this year? Are we focusing on the Commissioner's Trophy in baseball? Could you imagine? Are we focusing on the Commissioner's Trophy, or are we focusing on the World title?
Cannot imagine.
This year.
Yeah.
That would be sick. Like, that'd be super fun and sick. Like, hey, listen, you're the top wild card team, Padres, so you qualify.
Yeah.
You're in the Champions League next year.
Makes it more interesting for sure. Yeah.
So if you don't win this, you could win that. Here's Derek in my hometown of La Mesa, adopted hometown, but hometown nonetheless of La Mesa. Hi, Derek. Welcome to the show. Ask us anything.
How's it going? Hey, you're a resident Oregon Duck football fan. By the way, spread tonight is not the trap game.
It's a
against
trap
Purdue.
game. Be
They're
concerned.
going to kill them.
They should.
They're
That
gonna
doesn't mean
smash
they
them.
will. I'm worried for you, Derek. I think that's
They're
bad
gonna
scheduling
smash
by the
them.
Big Ten, Derek.
Under
Looking out
30.
for you.
Fire it out, Derek. Under 30.
Hey, Hey, if you had to start a franchise with one player, Judge, Tatis, Ohtani, who do you take?
I think we answered that on Monday.
It's Ohtani, isn't it?
It's probably Ohtani.
It's Ohtani.
Tatis is fun, though.
It's Ohtani.
I would start one with Tatis, but
Homer.
Ohtani gives you the
Homer.
pitching and the
Homer.
Yeah, he
hitting.
gives you
It's
two
Homer
players
pick.
in
hard
one.
to
Here comes
deny
Quinn and Chris.
that.
Have a great weekend. Talk to you Monday.
Bye.